G2 goated, by far the best European or, you know, just Western, whatever you want to call it, org ever. And they are doing it once again, carrying the torch for EU.
That they are, and some of that has been through their changes in draft since that BLG series. In this first draft, powered by Omen and HyperX. Let's jump in and see if G2 continue to draft the way they have over the last couple of days.
So one of the biggest things we've seen both in the BNK series and the Gen G series was this big conversation about Ashe Seraphine. BLG have decided we're going to ban it away. Take the Ashe out of the equation. We don't think that Seraphine is big of a prio. Now the question becomes Vi. We've actually seen G2 move away from this as a priority, but as bot lane has become the focus, how does BLG shift their approach as Lulu seems to be the first pick here in game one?
Yeah, Lulu really, really powerful. To me now, the question for G2 is, do you pick away the Yunara? Because that, I think, is the prime pairing. Of course, you can go other things with Lulu, Aphelios, Zeri, Jinx, whatever you want to do. But Lulu Yunara is really powerful. And so much of pro play right now has become about these kind of standard duos. You mentioned the Ashe Seraphine. I would say Karma Ezreal. These ones are kind of similar as well. And it really comes down to philosophy on, if one gets picked, do you pick away the other? Which half of the duo do you think is stronger? Some teams will tell you Yunara is the more important half of the duo. Other teams will tell you Lulu is. G2 does not want to allow BLG to have that full bot lane duo. And now their question is, do you go kind of like an inferior enchanter, or do you just play more standard and play engage alongside it, which is kind of what I expect.
And I don't blame G2 for not wanting that bot lane to be played against them, because that's what destroyed them in the first series versus BLG.
Neeko becomes the champion that I'm thinking about the most. I'm still waiting for this Blitzcrank pick to come out as an answer into the Lulu that we're just yet to see, but Nami could be a solid alternative depending on what style of bot lane they're looking for.
Yeah, and Neeko is kind of where my mind is at, you know, alongside where Medic was mentioning, because it gives you power in the lane, it gives you engage, it's kind of that middle ground here. I also like Jarvan because when I was mentioning a lot of these other options, a lot of them are champions without a dash. If you really want to be, you know, having hyper carry that scales and also still has that dash, you have to go Zeri. And I think that is an option. You could go towards Zeri. Sivir being hovered here, I would be a little surprised because it is traditionally one of these champions that is very vulnerable to the Jarvan. And when you're picking it early here, there's always the possibility of things like Alistar coming through as well, which you can't actually spell shield that combo. So if G2 wanted to go for engage, you'd already be set up well for a dive comp there in onto this Sivir.
I mean, there's going to be a lot of threat, but BLG are already setting themselves up for a very solid front-to-back style of team fight.
Poppy.
We've seen Poppy come through from Shun multiple times before. We're expecting this to go into the jungle, and it's going to limit some of those more mobile champions that we're seeing in the meta right now.
Also limits the impact that Skumon can have. So many times in team fights, he's the guy locking up the front line, locking up the carries, making sure that they can't get into the back of the fight. When you have Shun there on the Poppy, he's just going to be able to stop all of that engaged pressure.
And I just think it's so smart because when you have a pick like this, you're already saying, okay, we're drafting Sivir Lulu. You basically have to kill the Sivir or you're not going to win the fights. You know, if you're going through that thought process, okay, well, what do you draft to kill Sivir? You draft dive. What does Poppy kind of pre-counter? Well, it pre-counters dive, right? So I do think it is a really intelligent choice here. And G2, whether they were considering the Alistar or not, are now going to go towards the Nami here. More about the lane power, more about the 2v2. I do think it should give them that winning 2v2, though BLG can just try to play to hit the wave and try to play for wave clear. They don't necessarily have to interact a lot, but generally Nami is going to be considered winning into that Lulu.
Now, so far from G2, we've been seeing tank tops. Broken Blade has been responsible for playing on the weak side, and I wonder how much BLG is going to try and pinch this pool, or if instead they feel very confident in Bin's ability to just have that counter pick. Because my expectation is they want to give Caps the best possible matchup. The last time those two mid laners met, it was a very one-sided affair. Knight really ran the rift when going up against Caps in the mid lane, so I expect them to want to set him up for success. With the Ahri already banned, we got to remember Knight, a phenomenal Ahri player, used to hold like the highest win rate in the world on the champion. I don't know if he still does, but phenomenal regardless. And so I'm expecting that mid lane pool to be the prior.
I think BLG are going to do the same thing they did in their series against JDG. I think they're going to blind Gnar, and I think that's why they're going for the Yasuo ban. So whether or not G2 is going to actually ban this as a response, this is something they've done in a lot of best of fives. Well, they'll game one in Gnar to set up for a Renekton in the second game if they want to have that angle. They're kind of pre-banning some of these counters and taking them out of the pool. I would also be pretty worried if I'm Broken Blade, having watched that JDG series, because to me, such a key component of BLG's success against JDG is how Shun and Bin play together to put Xiaoshu into the dirt. Like, he had no chance. And Broken Blade is going to have to be prepared for that pressure, prepared for that amount of of attention. So Skewmont is really going to have his work cut out for him.
And we didn't really see it in the first series of Broken Blade against Clear. Clear was getting some leads, but there wasn't a lot of pressure top. Yesterday against Gen G as well, most of the focus was down towards that bottom side. So we'll see if Broken Blade, now playing predominantly tanks, can actually survive the pressure you're talking about, Azael.
Oh, interesting. So they're actually going to ban the Renekton. That's pretty surprising to me because I thought they were going to be blinding Anar, which is a pretty good matchup into that. The LeBlanc to me suggests G2 are considering a Kali, which is going to be interesting.
Into Lulu and Poppy, I think that would be a really big mistake.
But that is mostly the matchup that people are playing LeBlanc into these days, which is why I'm kind of thinking it may be a suggestion.
I feel like Aurora right now is kind of the premier mid lane pick, and it looks like they're going to lock that one in. I think they're trying to limit Knight's options to have agency in the mid lane pool, but I think that Knight could just go for something like a Victor. They could go full scaling if they want to, go for the Rod of Ages Victor, have more of a HP, a little bit more less burst.
And here's the thing, we talk about BLG being able to get through their get ahead through their solo lanes, get Bin ahead, put him on a carry, allow him just to dominate the game. BLG can also just team fight really well. They're not the best team fighters in the LPL. I think that goes over to someone like JDG, but still, if you get them to a position where they're even in the late game, everyone on this team can carry.
So there is the expected Nara, but again, I'm a little bit surprised by the Renekton ban. That one
well, could be very much what you're saying. So we've seen Broken Blade domestically blind pick that, even if the risk of an Anar on the other side.
And he goes hard.
And they're just probably, as you said, they want to keep it for later on in the series.
Yeah, it is interesting.
But yeah, the Annie Hover right now, we've seen it multiple times into the Aurora matchup. They both do very similar things. Annie has slightly longer range, but Aurora has slightly more versatility. Just in her... Oh, the Yorick slam from Broken Blade.
Yorick is actually a very good matchup into Gnar. You know, it's a lot about punishing the Gnar in mini form. I mean, let's be honest, almost all Yorick matchups are going to be about how many morning mists you can hit, right? If you can't hit the E, you don't proc the ghouls onto them, and it becomes, you know, a little bit difficult. But it is a matchup where you can win in the 1v1, where you can draw pressure to the side lanes. And this comp that BLG has drafted is more about playing 5v5 for sure. So this could throw a wrench in the gears a little bit there for G2. That being said, Cage has some funny interactions. You know, sometimes it can be pretty difficult to gank. You know, if you're looking at someone like a Poppy, you can sometimes just kind of cage out the Poppy and just walk straight past. So we'll see if Broken Blade can stay safe and kind of draw pressure onto that side lane.
I mean, I will be honest, like, Aurora in general for EU teams is not something that invokes a lot of hope, but Caps did have a very impressive Aurora yesterday. He was able to find some very nice picks, even almost finding a one-shot onto Ruler in the middle lane. And so I'm hoping he can emulate that performance, because all of G2 are going to need to step up compared to what we saw in their last series versus BLG.
So if Aurora doesn't give you any hope, may I suggest you just squint your eyes and only look at the nameplate above the Aurora, because I think Caps is a name that does invoke a lot of hope for EU over the years.
Well, I'm hoping so, as I mean, yeah, this is a stressful final. The LPL really have ran EU into the ground when it comes to international finals. But G2, they look like a different beast. Let's see how they show up today against their rivals of BLG.
For the first time here in the First Stand 2026 finals, we make our way onto Summoner's Rift. G2 with the weight of the entirety of Europe resting upon them. A surprise, to be sure, to see them in this position for BLG. They've been here many times before, but have yet to take the title, yet to claim that first place. Hansama stepping up, Knighton on will be spotted. Hansama just backs away, uses that ward in the middle bush of the lane to know that Viper's waiting as well.
I actually really like these cheeky level ones. More and more teams are doing this. For a while at the start of the season, all pro players were just like, well, I guess level ones aren't a thing anymore. You just can't do anything at level 1. And people have realized if you just sprint down to a lane, so what they were expecting was G2 to be playing in this brush here. And if Hans and Labrov are in that side brush, they probably lose flash and they probably lose a lot of health just from Knight walking in behind them. So I like the attempt there, because Knight gets back, doesn't miss any CS mid, doesn't miss any XP mid. There was really no cost to that, and it could have been a big reward.
Absolutely. I'm also very interested in what the jungle early game plan is, because, Azael, you were just mentioning it, how in yesterday's series from BLG, there was a lot of foot top.
I've got to interrupt you. We've got breaking news, a special announcement. The MSI and World schedules are now public. You can check out the full schedule on lolesports.com, including the dates for Worlds 2026, with finals at the Barclays Center in New York City. There are also MSI venues, dates, ticket dates, basically everything. Everything you need to start planning for your trips for the 2026 international events. Apart from this one, I would suggest not now coming to São Paulo, as today is the last day of First
Unless
Stand.
you live maybe around the corner.
Yeah, you can just run around. Yeah. You can walk around the corner, I guess.
Well, we do have a packed house here in São Paulo. Hansama taking the short end of the trade.
Barrier coming out from Viper. Hansama has to use barrier as well. Heal from LeBron, who is low. Forced underneath the tower, dodges the boomerang blade. But in the end, it's barrier for barrier and heal for heal in the bot lane.
Yeah, and honestly, because LeBron still has mana, it's not that bad. Hans did kind of waste his barrier. He popped it when he wasn't actually being hit. Viper was attacking LeBron in that moment. Otherwise, I think it could have gone really well for G2 if he just early popped the barrier when he was actually trading autos.
Really smart base from Viper as well, as he recognized he invested all of his mana, a lot of his HP, and jungler's a pathing bot. So he has to be really careful. Nice trade from Broken Blade in the top lane 1v1.
Yeah, just trading in there with the last rights, and the morning mist connecting allows those ghouls to get the extra chase onto Bit.
Perfect timing this base now for Viper. He's going to come back to lane with the Cull. The wave kind of being frozen underneath this tower, but Hansama has not had an opportunity to reset. Lebrov going to use this opportunity to get back to base himself to replenish both that mana and HP. Will give Hansama a slight experience advantage, but yeah, he's going to have to be careful now as the wave is going to be put in an awkward spot, and Shun could fish for an opportunity.
Yeah, Shun is going to come on down and see if they can try to punish on this push out. They do have a pink ward there.
Yeah, Shun. We'll just spot out Lebrov. Lebrov will spot out Shun. And, now he looks for it. Lebrov has to flash away as Shun was looking for the slam into the wall. Viper forced down to 2/3 HP. Skewmon looking for a gank towards mid. Knight hovering the bottom side smartly here, knowing that his jungler's on that side of the map. Caps jumping in, looking for the slow. Knight has to flash the slow from the weirding. Otherwise he could have been caught out, but Skewmon's flashing for the chase. The shield from Knight enough to get him a bit of movement speed. There's a flank here for Shun as well, who dashes across the wall. Skewmon down to half HP as On tries to trade back in. Knight has the stun. No flash on him. The polymorph. Skewmon's going to get stunned up, but Knight is low as well. Skewmon tries to dash back in. A 1-for-1 exchange so far as LeBron comes in to bolster the attack for Caps. But Caps now needs to run. Does still have the flash. Shun still trying to chase in. Doesn't get the stun against the wall. Caps low on mana. Flash forward from On. The hammer smash not connecting, and Shun might just fall to LeBron. On's going to follow suit. Caps goes across the veil, and BLG go to the death realm.
G2 start the game off with 3 kills in the river. It felt like such a heavy overforce from G2. They didn't even have the numbers advantage to start off that fight. But Lebrov James, the man, comes in, makes the plays happen, turns the play in their favor, and G2 find themselves with a 1K gold lead.
I mean, it's the slimmest of margins there as well. You know, it looked like it was going to go pretty bad for G2, and you know, they did get first blood on the side of BLG, but then they kept chasing for it, and Broken Blade could be in trouble here.
Yeah, needs to try and get out. Broken Blade flashing, but doesn't have much mana. Bin can just chase him down, has the range advantage. He's been put in alcove prison for now. Broken Blade, he's just going to recall. You can also TP out in that position, but Bin not chasing him any further.
Yeah, that was a really good flash for Broken Blade because it gave him time for the cooldowns to come back up, so Bin couldn't chase. The initial play, great from Knight. You have to flash the weirding there, otherwise the slow means you're not going to be able to get to your team. Great sidestep comes through, and then this flash over from Shun, but it's the slimmest of margins, misses the stun into the wall there, and that allowed this fight to go on for so much longer, bought so much time for Lebrov to arrive, and then watch this next stun from Shun as he goes for the tackle into the wall. If this lands, Caps is just dead to rights. He barely, that's a pixel or two away. That allows him to escape. That allows the sustain really to make the difference. Cap survives, gets the reset on across the veil here, and is able to stay safe, get a kill. That is tiny, tiny differences. Both those tackles missed the stun.
No, you're completely right. It was the slimmest of margins, and the slow that came through from Lebrov, applying the E onto himself, and then meaning that Shun realized, I can't actually get in range. I can't actually close the gap anymore onto Caps. I have to disengage, but he ends up just losing his life as well. And the unsung thing about that situation is both AD carries wanted to join that fight too, but Hans actually got Prio in the river, making it hard for Viper to approach, and Hans says, you're staying with me, buddy. We're actually just going to stick in this 1v1 because I trust my team to come out ahead.
Might using Tibbers here just to harass Caps down. More about getting the wave in and making sure that Caps doesn't have an easy move somewhere else than anything else. Something we saw a ton when Annie mid was really meta. A couple of MSIs ago, I want to say. Hansama and Lebrov with the push in towards the bottom lane. Shun is on his way across here, as is Knight. Hansama and Lebrov stepping forward. He'll use for the movement speed. Shun still on the chase, doesn't have the flash. Hansama trying to get away alongside Lebrov. Step up presence coming down. Hansama steps back forward into it. Lebrov so low, slammed into the wall. And BLG will claim their second kill of the game.
Really good focus here. They knew Lebrov had no flash from that earlier fight, so it's always eyes on the Nami. They were never going to go for Hans in that situation. Knight uses the Tibbers, gets Prio, walks down, makes sure that even if the enemy jungler is there, they are safe. But Bin now could be in a little trouble. He's not going to overextend.
Broken Blade was trying to make him use his E with that Dark Procession to allow Skumon to come across. But as you say, Bin doesn't need to overextend either. The Maiden is down, that wave's going to push in. Skumon might look to go behind the tower here. Bin has no flash, there's the Cataclysm. They'll look for the follow-up, but Bin's still very healthy for now. The Ghouls are going to join in. Another Dark Procession. He didn't overextend, but Skumon still finds him.
So while the action is happening on the bot side of the map, Skumon set his sights on the top side jungle camps. Shun will return to his jungle to find that top side disappeared, but it is Skumon that's able to make the cross map happen. 4-2, the kills in favor of G2.
And that is with Bin playing so respectful. He has early steel caps, he's not overextending at all, but they just have so much terrain creation there to be able to lock him in when he doesn't have the hop. There's just nothing he can do to get away.
Viper getting chased out by Hans Summer here, who has level 6, but that polymorph perfectly timed. LeBron not yet level 6. Viper still trading back onto Hans, who has to pop the barrier, but again, not taking too much damage while it's happening, and Hans just goes down. Thought he had the advantage with that level 6. Knight's on his way across as well. LeBron needs to be careful.
Yeah, that's back-to-back skirmishes on this bot side where Hans hits the barrier when he's not being hit. Shun going for a flash.
Heroic charge, Keeper's verdict. Knight here for the follow-up, but Caps able to get across the wall in time.
So we heard from G2 that stylistically, Gen.G and BLG are quite different. And on your screen is exactly what you're seeing. BLG don't waste any time. G2 think that with the level advantage they have, it's a good trade for them. But Viper connects double box of the Q onto Hans, and the polymorph timing was perfect, which meant that Hans just wasn't hitting for a very long time. He had the flash available, decided not to commit it. The only saving grace is that it was on that ends up getting the kill.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Conway step. You can't dash into range of the Lulu in that position. You have to play on the edge of the range. You have to pull the Lulu into you. They had the level 6 advantage, but overcommitment there from Hans does get punished, and poor use of the barrier. And Hans has been incredible for G2 in these last 2 series. They need him to stay locked in. They need him to have that kind of performance here.
They really do, but Shun at the moment leading BLG's charge so consistently, burning these flashes, going in, getting Caps' flash after the play down towards the bottom lane. He has been doing a really good job for BLG, and with BLG having this carousel of junglers, Shun coming back in not only is the glue for the team morale-wise, but also one of the best junglers in the world is Skumon, has been trying to claim that title over the last couple of days, manages to force out Knight's flash.
In my mind, a lot of this series is going to come down to this jungle matchup. Yeah, people like to talk about Shun because BLG has talked about him as a mood maker, as a guy who, you know, is that person who can bring everyone together, keep them positive in reviews, but he is also absolutely one of the very best junglers in the world. In my mind, these are the 2 best performing junglers at this tournament, which whoever wins, you know, you are likely going to be the current best jungler in the world. That is going to be the level of performance we are talking about, as Skumon had back-to-back incredible performances against Raptor and Canyon, and Shun, last time he fought Skumon, really got the better of him. So much is going to come down to this jungle matchup.
I think they're both just very good at reading the state of the map and recognizing what they can and cannot do. Skumon demonstrated this game already. Bot gank happening. I'm going to counter invade topside, steal away your camps, and look for a play for myself. But Shun does the exact same thing. Oh, I see Caps looking for a roam, trying to follow the Annie. I'm going to punish you. And they just have such great awareness of the prio that they have in their lanes and the pressure that they're able to implement.
No flash.
Skumon knows he doesn't have flash. Knight not knocked up though. He's going to get the stun off. Caps looking to go between the worlds, and Knight is sent back to the fountain. G2's mid-jungle finding their 5th total kill together.
100% kill participation for Skumon as he makes his presence known on the Rift. He set his sights on bot lane.
As Shun is on his way across here, on having to flash away. Skumon doesn't have the Cataclysm right now. It's still on cooldown, tied away. Viper blocks it with a spell shield. Shun holding on to the steadfast presence. The knock into the wall with a heroic charge, and Skumon overstepped on a sliver of HP. Shields enough. The Keeper's verdict finds LeBron guilty, but he'll flash forward to get it. A 1-for-1 so far. Underneath the tower, Viper should be able to chase out LeBron. Shun is coming to help. It will be a 2-for-1 in favor of BLG.
LeBron flashes in, does get one back, but at the end of the day, that is your flash to kill off support, and Viper is going to be the one to get the kill. He just made that call, you know what, I'm not getting out regardless, so I am going to take that trade kill. But Shun here was ready for this. The initial play, great from G2. They'd already forced Knight's flash with that Cataclysm before, and they know, you know what, even if the knockup doesn't land, red buff slow, that's enough. Caps is going to come in, that's an easy kill. But this play was a little bit telegraphed. You know, G2, look how aggressively they're positioning forward. LeBron is walking so far up, so Shun is just sprinting straight down, and On was holding the wild growth the whole time.
And I think the awkward part about it was the wave wasn't quite underneath the tower, so Hans couldn't get involved in the play, and no ulti available on the Jarvan. Think of how different this play could have been if he'd had that ultimate available. BLG just had more resources. You'd committed too much to the play earlier, and it meant that BLG get themselves 2 kills back. Overall, though, still 2 for 2 in kills, so the gold still remains in G2's favor.
And it is Caps monstrously fed, a position he wasn't really in last time he went up against BLG, where it was Knight who was running the show in mid lane. And this time, Caps and Skumon really working well together, putting Caps in an incredible spot. Ooh. Aurora is one of these champions that can snowball absolutely out of control.
Caps TPing behind. Viper has flash and barrier on, doesn't have the flash or the heal. Hans Sum already down to half HP to pop the barrier as Viper tries to trade in, has the flash away, slowed up. Caps still looking for the chase here, goes between worlds, but can't get close enough to On or Viper, who have extricated themselves incredibly well from this situation. Caps still chasing forward, 2-fold Hex, not enough through the help picks, and the weirding was short. Shun coming across, the Knight coming across too. G2 will back away. Incredible from the BLG bot lane.
A big misexecution there from G2. I wonder if Caps' ult was, I wasn't paying attention, if it wasn't actually off cooldown at the start of that play, because I'm surprised that he held onto it for so long. Ends up using it where it doesn't connect onto anyone. Viper's able to flash away to safety, and the idea there could have been huge for G2, but at the end of the day, they misexecute. BLG walk away scot-free.
Yeah, Viper played that really well. He knows he can't retreat through Caps. He's got to fight his way out. And he just fought his way through there, held his spell shield for the bubble as that came through from Lebrov. And they're able to create enough distance. I think Caps did have the ulti as he TP'd in, but I think he was thinking, all right, they have Sums, they have Sivir, I need to save it for kind of the gap closer to be able to chase him down. But Viper and On played this excellently.
BLG note that Skumon's on the top side of the map. That Grub's call of death has come out on the screen, so BLG look to put the pressure down here. Shun comes across, forces Hans Summer and Lebrov to play a little bit more passively. No flash on Lebrov still.
I love how much action is happening around bot lane. If it's not the junglers, the mid laners are permanently roaming. If you guys keep your eyes on the minimap at home, you'll notice Knight permanently moves into Fog of War. It is just that threat of, I'm threatening a bot lane roam, I have that possibility, the bot lane has to respect it because my jungle is on the other side of the map. But now that Skumon is pathing towards bot and can potentially cover, he's now being spotted out on this bot side vision. So there's this huge fight over information on the bot side of the map to enable for both teams to look for plays in that area.
Skumon on vision here as On walks away from the control ward.
It's worth noting that it is going to be an Ardent Sensor rush here from On. So, not needing Mikhails or anything like that, this game is going to be able to accelerate Viper even faster here, give more powerful buffs. Obviously, you have to save Polymorph a lot of time defensively, but anytime you can actually throw that onto the Sivir as well, when they're already fed, you're getting a ridiculous amount of attack speed from this Lulu between the buff of the W as well as the Ardent Sensor.
On having a great tournament overall, bringing out some of his niche pocket picks, but also just showing how effective he can be. Often memed as a player that can be a little bit inconsistent on or off. It's very easy to make a joke about that name, but over this tournament, I think he's been really excelling.
I mean, this whole year, I would say he's been really accelerating. Last year, I do think, hey, some of the memes, it's going to happen, right? It is funny. But he has been killing it, both in the LPL, and I felt like yesterday, to me, he was the player of the series, as we can check in on the Coinbase gold grind there, as Viper is up about 1,000 gold, thereabouts.
There we go.
Is going to be looking pretty strong.
Is that a toad fight?
They're sending Broken Blade down to bot. He doesn't have the TP available. Knight will. So the TP advantage, the numbers advantage, should go the way of BLG.
G2 wrestling control of the mid lane right now, off Viper and On, but very difficult to do into a Sivir. Shun and Skumon just butting heads in the river. Skumon looking for On, will get some damage down onto him. Lebrov coming across, and there's the heal out of On. No flash burn, but you take the summoner. Yeah,
you don't want to overcommit there, especially with the objective just around the corner. Skumon knows he doesn't have his damage dealers right behind him. He needs to get that prio.
Sorry, Betty. Now Bin has had to go down towards the bottom lane, so it's both the people without teleports down in that bottom lane, meaning that G2 have a 4v4.
Yeah, they definitely want Knight there with them for the start of the fight. He has flash, he has ult, but Caps is here too. This could be a big fight.
On stepping forward, has to flash away. Tidal wave coming out as well. The keeper's verdict only lands onto Lebrov, but a great act of Prism before he was knocked back. On taken out by Caps. Shun having to flash as Hans Summer continues to play. Chase and flashes forward. Viper caught in the dark procession. The cage around him a coffin.
quick kills come through from G2. BLG wasn't expecting that level of aggression to come through from the G2 squad. Hans Sama steps forward, punishes on. No heal to get him to safety, has to commit the flash, and G2 convert that into more. Bin will do his best to convert it into a tower, but now Knight.
Knight with the timbers down, has to flash the Aqua Prism. LeBron on point with those so far as Broken Blade trying to trade onto Bin, who flashes away, but Shun's coming across, will land the who charges the wall, and now Skumon's in a 1v2, and Bin is about to go mega. Giga Bin on the rip, forces Skumon flash away, flag and drag, but Shun still chases on, trying to come in to bolster the attack. The charge doesn't connect on the wall, but the smash will get the slow. A house chucked at Skumon, everything in the kitchen sink used to kill him off, and BLG find the enemy jungler.
And just like that, look at the gold lead for Bin, as that was a costly roam from Broken Blade. He ran up towards mid lane. You leave Bin alone on that bot side. Not only does he get the plates, he gets first tower gold, then they try to collapse on him, but Giga Bin outplays, is up 1.5k out of nowhere.
The man is the stuff of nightmares for the European squads. This man has an incredible record, and he's looking to continue that record as we go back to the Herald fight. That slow from Hans Sama starts things off and looks so favorable for G2. Caps quickly turns his attention onto On, gets that initial pick. Shun flashes away, just barely escapes with his life. Then the arrival of Broken Blade, as you highlighted, Azale. But then he tries to return back to bot.
Nice.
With the dragon spawning soon, they think, you know what, if we can kill Bin, we get an easy dragon, but the fight does not go their way.
Exactly. I mean, the morning mist misses, which means Bin is not really getting threatened that heavily, and Broken Blade almost goes down in the 1v2, but Shun arrives, cleans him up, and then Skumon realizes, I don't have the damage to finish Bin. I have to run for it here.
The flash of the EQ combo away from Skumon was just beautiful from Bin. The man is locked in, and he's ready to fight.
Caps trying to kill off Knight, and will do so. LeBron is low. Aqua Prism coming out. Skumon looking for the chase as well, and it's only on and Shun. Cataclysm down, the keeper's verdict. Will knock Skumon out, but Caps is still there to find himself a double. Now 6-0-2 on this Aurora, as LeBron flashes and doesn't land the Aqua Prism.
Yeah, the dead man's move speed there enough for Shun to get out to safety, but Caps is just on fire. And if you are a long-time G2 fan, this is so promising. Seeing Caps in classic form like this, you know he can take over a game. They're going to be able to get the plates. They're going to be able to get the tower as well on the top side. It's over a 2k gold lead for Caps individually.
It's crazy. It feels like that the game right now is Caps versus Bin. The gold leads are insurmountable. We know that Bin has that carried potential, but we look back at this play as it's LeBron who looks like he's getting caught out. The ultimate gets dropped by Knight, but the heal and the W both keep him alive, and then Caps comes out of nowhere to get the pick.
Meanwhile, in picture, Bin has been caught out, and G2 put him in the trash. A huge kill for G2. The gold lead swings back in their favor as Caps looks for On in the mid lane, weirding just short of clipping Lulu's heels.
I mean, Caps is just everywhere on the top side play. BLG are going for that because they think Caps is base, but he's just hiding in that side lane brush. Then he goes down to bot lane. He TP'd there. We didn't get to see the setup, but he TP'd down towards bot lane, gets a kill onto Bin. They have the Herald. They're going to get probably 2 charges here, maybe the second full tower, but probably will be able to be defended here by BLG. G2 in a great spot here.
Gentlemen, I was skeptical about EU Aurora. I've been skeptical about Caps' overall performance at this tournament, but for him to show up now, the best time he could possibly show up. A 6-0-3 scoreline on the Aurora, and he is dominating on the Rift right now.
And even more good news for G2 is that this is probably the worst possible soul roll you could have got as BLG. They took the early 2 dragons. Great, Chemtech Soul gives you durability when you're low HP. That doesn't help when Caps one-shots you from full.
Yeah. Caps absolutely popping off. Most gold in the game, just ahead of Viper. Only has about 400 gold lead over Hans Sama.
And I mean, Caps, he does not have... Oh, hang on a minute, Shun.
Step-up person coming down, TP as well.
They're committed to this.
Looking for it. Can't quite land the knock-up, and because of that, Shun's just able to walk away.
But I mentioned it earlier, like, Caps versus LPL has not been a good track record for him. If you look at the international finals where he's met them, they are 0-6. But right now, that's only because the Baron's just
has
been
no
started.
GP. Bin has no GP.
He's down towards the bottom side. Shun does have the flash and can get into the pit. Has to keep his verdict as well. Easy way to turn this into a numbers advantage for BLG. Knight holding on to the timbers.
Flipping this.
No flash for him. Skumon still in the pit with G2. Broken Blade trying to keep Viper at bay. Vision in the pit for BLG with that control ward. They know what this Baron is on. Shun trying to step forward, chunked out a little bit by Hans Sama. The Maiden doing a bit of work. Bin's already walked across here. Dark Possession slows him up for the moment, and G2 call it off as BLG were able to rebut them.
I like the attempt, though, from G2. They had already committed to that play when they saw Shun on the top side. You've already spent your TP, so try to draw them up. And hey, we saw on overstep at that Herald fight, if that had happened from BLG, if there's a little bit of an overstep, you get a kill. Maybe it turns into a wipe, maybe it turns into a Baron. They don't flip it, though, which is the important thing.
Look at mid lane, look at mid lane. Shun and Knight threatening a play.
Hansama and Caps need to get out of here. Steadfast presence used between worlds goes Caps, and they escape with the ability to get out of there.
This game is stressful. There is so much action happening on the Rift.
Viper's using like on the hunt for the chase. Like we have like 10 graphics that we wanted to bring up through this game. I had a really good joke at the start of the series that I wanted to bring up, but there's been action the entire time.
Okay, well, 40 seconds until the Dragon, so we're not going to have that much time because both teams need to get back to base. They need to spend what gold they can. Look at the items on Viper as Knight might be caught out.
Dark Possession going down. Knight does have the flash using Tibbers, uses flash to get out. Shun here as well to try and defend his mid laner. Skumon and the Brob on the chase. We'll try and chunk out Shun as much as they can before this Drake does come up. Bin chasing Caps out towards the top side, flashing forward. Caps able to use the rocket belt to get himself away from that mini Gnar who was about to turn Mega.
That is actually huge. Caps didn't have to use a flash of his own, and Bin used that flash, and they keep putting pressure on a Knight, forcing him to use defensive flashes. Viper
doesn't dodge the flag and drag, flashes away, but the Cataclysm will follow. The wild growth, though, Viper still goes down. Skumon able to flash away, and Shun is chunked out to half. The flag and drag out from Skumon now, but Hansama steps forward immediately, cleansed away with the Chaos from the stun out of Knight. Such good timing from LeBron. That could have been deadly.
Yeah, that is great for G2. They're going to be able to grab this Dragon, no problem. I just love the pressure that they're putting on. Viper needed to flash that initial engage. He held the flash late. The Cataclysm is there to follow. And even with on behind him, it is not enough to keep Viper alive.
The thing that has shocked me the most about this game is when they played against Gen G, my biggest praise for them was their discipline, their control. But now, their aggression, they are matching BLG in their choice for violence. And right now on the Rift, it is 12 kills to 7, 19 kills in 23 minutes. Both these teams are ready to fist fight on the Rift, and BLG, they are not holding back any punches.
I mean, this is a game now that is so much about Bin for BLG. You know, you look at the experience advantages. Knight has been put so far down. We can go back to this initial play. That is the Mega Blast Cone getting in. You know, he had to flash early. He does not. The Lulu makes it look a little bit closer than you would have wanted for G2, but even with that Lulu there, they can't stay alive. And I mean, Knight is just falling so far behind. He can't get experience. He's not getting farm. He hasn't gotten any kills. You know, he is down 2 full levels on Caps. He can't play in the side lanes. Every time he goes there, he is just getting ganked, forced to use flash defensively. That is the most important tool for any. You want to be looking for these flash multi-man engages.
I think the thing for BLG, though, is although you're 1.4k behind, you do still have 2 Drakes, so there's no soul point coming up quickly for G2. And you still have, as you said, Azael, Bin on his Gnar. You still have the possibility of a G2 versus the LPL, G2 versus Bin moment of a massive Gnar in a fight, and you've got enough follow-up to make sure that G2 just die before they have the opportunity to react.
And despite the fact that Knight is down 2 levels, Bin is up 2 levels on Broken Blade. You know, he's about to hit 17 here, obviously highest level in the game by a lot, has been playing very heavily through side lanes, you know, up over 11 CS per minute or thereabouts as Caps is getting some help here. This is trouble for Bin.
So Bin has teleport, tidal wave used by LeBron. There's the TP. LeBron flashing with the aggro-prism, and they will find Bin. He tries to trade back in, gets the Gnar into the wall, gets the stun, follows it with the wall of the barrier, enough to keep Hansama alive. He dashes across the wall, and Bin almost buried Hansama. But G2 were able to find the kill. BLG now collapses, kill, use the TP to get in here. Shun has to go onto Hansama, dashes in, gets the hammer shot down. Aggro-prism again, Hansama still surviving. On taking down to half HP, Skumon tries to trade towards the top side. Viper caught out in the Cataclysm, on trying to escape the between worlds. The Caps has put him in, but they just can't get away. BLG thought they were collapsing, and G2 said, you could collapse now. Shun tries to escape, but G2 will not give him an inch. They find the ace as G2 win out on the bot side.
Skumon solo killed Viper there as he tried to collapse on the play, and that is what made all the difference here. Bin almost has the monster outplay, gets 3 summoners, nearly takes down Hans, and they're thinking, you know what, G2 spent too much. We can win this fight. We can collapse. Hans survives, but watch Skumon. He catches off the AD carry. Shun just walked through the brush, so Viper's thinking, of course it's safe. My jungler just saw, but they didn't have vision on Skumond. The timing there was perfect from Skumond. He kills off Viper, a solo kill in the middle of a fight.
There are a couple of little subtle things as well, such as the bubble connecting onto the Lulu, meaning that Hans Summer can live for longer. The fact that Caps gains access onto the backline, Broken Blade isolating Knight. Shun was kind of a one-man army on the backline doing everything that he could, but it was not enough as G2 gets an ace against BLG.
And in the picture we saw Bin actually chasing Broken Blade out here. Bin did use his jump, now has another BB, no flash, but Caps is on the collapse and Bin doesn't really have the reinforcements yet. Viper and On now joining with their top laner. And G2 will call off the fight. BLG able to reinforce in time.
But G2 getting further and further ahead here. I mean, the entire gold lead still really is Caps, so if BLG can get fights 4v4 somehow where Caps is in a side lane, you know, it's going to look a lot better for them. But Bin really doesn't have much of a lead anymore at this point. And G2, it does feel like they are, you know, that one big fight away from breaking this game open, from being able to get a team fight win, from being able to get that Baron. But Caps has got to stay really on point because he has been incredible. He is the entire gold lead. If you go in one bad moment, get polymorphed into an anti-stun in one shot, the game can flip on its head.
In a 26-minute game, well, 27 minutes with 26 kills, Caps has somehow remained deathless. He has constantly played at the very edge, and we have to think back all the way to those very first few kills in the river where he lived with like 50 HP. A single auto attack, a single stun could have changed the entire dynamic of this game, but he has leveraged that early lead to perfection, and they're looking to close out game one. Dragon spawning in 30 seconds. He has 3 fully completed items with the upgraded boots as well. He is a hard man to kill, level 16. As BLG look to try and fight this dragon.
3 items for Viper. He is so strong on this Sivir if he gets a little bit of time. Bin as well, just chunking out Skumon, who does have the Guardian Angel, will have to flag and drag away. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Hans Summer knocked back, tidal wave coming out, keep his verdicts into the wild growth, into the steadfast presence, and Hans Summer doesn't get an opportunity to move! BLG collapsed perfectly in mid! They'll find 3, get the shutdown on BB, and now it's all on Caps and Skumon to try and defend the Mega Blast Cone. Will be Caps' friend, but he dashes back! He used the Between Worlds. Knight coming on for the flank here. Caps might just have to burn the flash to escape. He will do so, but the gold lead evaporates as BLG collapse around the Baron.
Yeah, they're already on the Baron. Viper was hitting that the whole time. He was not chasing. They want to focus this down. G2 will try to settle for the Dragon here, but it was Ben on the side that pushed Skumon down, and Hans was positioned very aggressively there. If they had no flash, and this engage from Shun, you're thinking, I'm safe, there's no wall. Charges in, knocks him up, wild growth to change it, and just not being able to get anything done there. Just perfect chain from BLG.
I think Bin's impact in the fight, as you highlighted, was just so monstrous. He did not stop clicking forward. He was just setting his sights on any opponent that was in front of him. Auto, doing so much damage. And with the damage build that he's gone for, that Mini-Gnar can run down anyone. With the Baron, BLG say to G2, we're not down and out just yet.
Definitely not. I mean, Shun has been on fire. 11 out of 12 KP. This guy has been a part of everything, has been finding plays left, right, and center. And he is very tanky. Obviously, Caps is mega fed, but still, the people that are going to be hitting Shun, it's mostly physical damage. And he has the full Randuin's plus that Dead Man's Complete. He is a very tanky jungle Poppy here at this point. And you already touched on Viper. You know, he's working on his 4th item, got so much gold off of that series of plays.
And all Knight really needs to do is land a stun. Yes, he's not had the greatest of performances, but at this point, Viper and Bin are your damage dealers. You just need to provide utility onto the right target, and you can still be game impactful. They set their sights on the bot tier 2. There's not much that G2 can do to clear this out against the double cannons. This tower is soon to fall.
Something, though, that is at least good for G2 is the fact Skumon didn't lose his GA, so you still have that. That is going to be very powerful for a fight. And Hans does have his flash back now. Broken Blade's about to have his flash, so they're going to have a lot of these summoners. They just have to watch out because Caps will not have flash and could be a target from a flash stun from Knight.
G2 pushing out mid and top, while BLG pushed through the bottom side, just short being able to take that tier 2. BLG now 1.3 thousand gold ahead as Caps looks for the damage on Viper. They'll go between worlds. Is Caps going to chase any further? On the hunt, pop by BLG. Tidal wave coming out as well. Isn't going to find its mark, and G2 will call off the chase at that point.
That is terrifying. That is 3,000 damage from 2 basic abilities across 2 members. The amount of pressure Caps can put out is astronomical. So definitely has the ability to still carry this game despite the fact that BLG have that gold lead now. even more pressure on Caps, because now it's not just Bin with the lead, it's Viper and Bin with massive leads. It really is all on Caps to be able to find an angle, delete one of these strong members. Really has to be Viper, because Knight just doesn't matter that much once he gets his spells down, and the rest of the team is kind of too tanky.
I mean, I feel like Viper's just fully online with this late game build now. With the support of the Lulu as well, this Sivir is the champion that I think is the scariest on the side of BLG. And that, as you rightly said, like, Bin is always there, but the main damage, either if they can't get rid of Viper, there's no way G2's going to win a fight.
And while BLG doesn't have the most explosive engage, they have so much move speed. You have Shirelias, you have the speed up from the Lulu, you have On the Hunt, you have Deadmans. G2 really has to be cognizant of that.
And beginning to deny more vision away from G2 in this jungle as well, using those Mega Blast Cones to try and get on Broken Blade, who backs away, but this will be the tier 2s for BLG. Bin pushing in, Caps looking for a flank, Drake up in 2 minutes, so still a while before we get there. Looks like Caps just wants to cut the wave as far away from the base as possible, delay BLG's advances, and he does that as BLG extend the gold lead to 2.2k. Caps goes across the veil and dodges away from Shun. Not too much damage on the Poppy, unsurprisingly.
Knight with flash, and look at this vision control as well. These are the things that G2 have to be so careful of, because he is always going to be looking for that one-shot potential. Even if he doesn't deliver the final blow himself, the setup that he has onto both Hans and LeBron, his ability to one-shot them is still very much real. And so they have to respect that. The vision coverage, as I was mentioning earlier, from BLG is so oppressive. G2's every move is being watched.
One of the real difficult things here for G2 is how do you get value out of the Yorick at this point, right? You know, Hans, he's down in gold, but you're always still going to be valuable here. On the Yorick, you're down essentially an entire item. You're not a good team fighter. You don't win side lanes, and you're kind of struggling to figure out, okay, what is my role in this game now? You know, can you win if you just show up to a 5v5? Is it better if I just try to pull Bin to the side lane and just try to be that sacrificial lamb set up for a 4v4 for my team? I think the job of Broken Blade becomes pretty complex at this point. Just because he didn't get that 1v1 advantage he wants, and Yorick is not a great team fighter.
You can see he's just grouping up with the team right now as Bin pushes through that bottom side. Hans Summer still short of the armor reduction that he really needs to get through Bin and through Shun. Sitting on the Fiend Hunters, Kraken, and the Infinity Edge. He's been funneled quite a bit of gold as well. We saw him picking up the blue buff earlier on. And then the Wolves. G2 trying to get towards that item spike, but BLG doing such a good job of just being oppressive during this portion of the game. A minute left before the Baron. Bin on the chase here with Shun. BB wisely walking away once again, but Bin will take his time to try and clear out the Maiden. Doesn't quite get it, down to about half HP.
You can see Viper is forgoing the armor pen as well. You know, he's going to be going in towards a GA next. More concerned about getting one shot than he is about, you know, maximizing damage here. Some armor is getting picked up on the other side, though. Skewmond obviously already had the GAs working in towards what I assume is going to be a Randuin's. Broken Blade has the Jack shows, picking up some more armor on top, so they're trying to get tanky enough to potentially punish that.
Someone needs to be careful. Puts the flag down for a little bit of vision. Knight was looking for the flank as well. BLG will get the Drake. No real contest from G2. No surprises there. And definitely feel like their backs are against the rope. And no shock as BLG have been pushing them back over and over the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, that last team fight just completely changed the momentum of the game, right? Yeah. BLG established how effective their team fighting really is. And G2 are now kind of fishing. They're buying time, waiting to get a couple more items. With the LDR finished, Hans going to have access to a lot more damage. But G2 doing their best to get some semblance of vision onto the top side of the Rift. You can see the entire bot side is littered in favor of BLG, but that top side around Baron is still an area of opportunity for G2.
Exactly, and that's what they're trying to threaten, because the Baron is about to spawn. Caps looking
for Viper, weirding, spell shielded well. And that's what Caps needs to do. TP coming behind here by Bin. Broken Blade will be able to spot him out as he comes across the side. G2 still looking for the fight. Knight is not here. This is a 4v3 in favor of G2. Skewmon looking for a flank now as Viper and On begin to collapse upon him. Bin doing the same. Knight now able to join up with BLG, and G2 pulled the trigger, but they fired a blank. BLG still chasing onto Skewmon. Flag and drag. Flash over from Bin. Broken Blade is here for the Dark Possession, and Skewmon will have to flash away to escape the clutches of BLG.
Trade of flashes there. The question is, you know, was that worthwhile for Bin, because he is such a strong member? Skewmon will be missing that flash, obviously pretty costly, but at this point in the game on the Jarvan, it's kind of less about you. It's more just about, you know, throwing down that Cataclysm.
Well, with the HP advantage that BLG have, there's no reason not to threaten this Baron. Shun's going to get a little bit of health back from the Scuttle Crab. They've now claimed full vision control around the river. See how difficult it is for G2 to actually approach. Caps is fishing.
Look at the shield though from Help Picks and from the Bloodthirster. Viper only chipped away a little bit as Caps goes in again. There's the barrier out of Viper. Shun falling low as the Catacomb comes in, but they don't know where Knight is, and so G2 have to play so cautiously. Mikhails and Skumon gets him out of the tip of stun. Shun diving in, looking for the heroic charge stun, but can't quite land it. As G2 once again able to back away from the play. BLG, though healthier, could just turn their eyes to the Baron again.
I mean, these ricochets are becoming such a problem. Viper is getting chunked out by Caps, but he just heals back to full. The ricochets bounce through the team, and I think they're going to threaten the Baron here for sure. They have a big HP advantage at this point.
Caps' ult is gone, Hans' ult is gone, Skumon's ult is all gone. There's no reason for BLG not to force this objective.
DP from Caps looking for that flank position. Bin down to a third, doesn't have the Mega, is a long way away from that Rage Bar as well. The Baron sitting at 13,000 on the hunt, is popped by Viper, but he can't get further than the Dark Procession. The Broken Blade locks him in. BB does have the flash, but stunned against the wall, doesn't have a chance to use it. BLG find a kill, and now will turn their attention back towards the big purple worm.
That's all they needed, a single kill. Now a big part of their front line has disappeared. Minion damage is good on the bot side of the Rift, but Caps has no TP available to him with 4 versus 5. BLG with firm control over this objective, and the Baron is simply melting.
Yeah, Knight still looking for that flank. Keeper's verdict out from Shun, lands it onto Lebrov. Knight gonna walk forward here, but is spotted on Vision Hunt. Summer trying to step in, does have the flash and barrier, but until Lebrov is back, no Mikhails, no cleanse for him. Skumon trying to get into the pit, but he just can't get close enough. Flag and drag is only option. On falling low, Hunt Summer stepping in. They turn on to Knight instead. BLG will secure the Baron, but Knight goes down for it. Hunt Summer still dashing forward, flashes from Shun. The stun. Viper able to get away from now, but Shun is gonna get chased down by G2. The chase continues as Skumon finds the backline. Been about to go mega. Skumon has the GA. The angel on his shoulder will bring him back as Caps finds another. BLG got the Baron, but at what cost? G2 will continue to chase as Viper falls for the triple. Ben with a wallop, but G2 want to relegate him to the trash. But no harm from Ben, not enough today. G2 overcome their demon that is Ben as they win the fight and clear away the Baron.
G2 have all 5 members alive. Look at those death timers. Knight, 15 seconds. G2, they have to go for the Nexus. They have to try and end the game.
They're going to look for the push through bot side. There's an inhibitor there. Knight is back up in 9. They don't have a wave. The question is, can they do it? They're looking to close it out, but without a wave, perhaps a step too far here for G2.
I think they can do it, though. They're pushing forward. Knight is going to try to get behind them and clear the wave, but they're going to go in.
Broken Blade puts him into the cage, and BLG are buried. G2, their attention on the Nexus. The keeper's verdict finds BLG guilty. G2 1-0 against in Worlds 23, 24. There's so many times that they've just been one step short of that finish line. The finals in 24 against T1 that went all 5 games and relied on another incredible mid laner, probably, well, definitely the best mid laner of all time, Faker, to take them down.
He's not bad, you know. He dabbles in League of Legends, and I know you know this, but you're talking about BLG. The organization has not won that international title, though, of course, a lot of international titles between their players here, and trying to get one for that organization here. Trying to bounce back. I mean, Knight had a game that was a tough one. Skumon and Caps really did put him in the dirt pretty early on. Broken Blade had a tough game on the top side, but it just didn't end up mattering because Caps really made the game about himself, his advantage, and he was everywhere on the map. That is, to me, Caps at his best, is when he is so active, when he's just non-stop making plays.
I very much agree. BLG once again picked first pick here going into this game. We have exactly the same bans as we did in game 1, and Pantheon will be the lock for Shun.
So, side lane threat, early game action. Xin Zhao is something that Skumon will often use as an answer. Sometimes we see the Vi. But what interesting thing has happened in the series now is with both Nami and Lulu already gone, remember that things like Ashe Seraphine rise in power, but again, the Ashe has been banned. And then with Lulu Corki, now no longer an option. And then also Yunara Lulu, no longer an option. So how does the bot lane dynamic change as Bard is going to be the lock-in and it's going to be another range support for Lebrov?
And I think it makes a lot of sense, right? You've been having so much success for your bot lane 2v2s against these 2 LCK teams. Continue to really emphasize that. Bard has a good laning phase, and you can be active on the map. And I think it's also a good takeaway from On his Bard game yesterday was stellar. So it's a denial pick. It gets you a winning 2v2. Skumon going to go to his Mundo, which I'm really starting to associate with him more and more and more. And I think they're pretty much set up for success early with these couple picks.
Going for Mundo early, though, means that there are ways to draft around it. It can be good into the Pantheon matchup, of course. But Ezreal is another thing to think about for G2, because they want to have a champion that can play safe. And it seems that BLG have a similar read and want to deny that pick away from G2.
I mean, one of the things I like is that because Pantheon was first pick, Mundo feels more safe, since Trundle is one of the things that you're always really scared of, right? But it's like, unless you're going to go Pantheon support and go really cook,
it's on. It's on. He can do these things. Like,
I believe in Shen support more than the Pantheon.
I agree with you there. I do think it's more likely to be Shen support. On has brought that out a couple of times through the LPL playoffs and through the LPL regular season.
And against G2, it's a double whammy, because not only do you lock in Shen support to have more of a global presence, but you take it away from Broken Blade in the series as well.
Yeah, it's great. And I mean, I'm a big Shen enjoyer. I love playing Shen on champions that have global, semi-globals, because you just go along for the ride. Pantheon flies into that back line with the Grand Starfall. All of a sudden, 2 members spawn in on the enemy AD carry, and you're looking for that type of hard engage, that type of play. But that being said, Bard can answer that. It is very telegraphed. You see a massive graphic coming up, when Pantheon is ulting in, and you can sometimes use that Bard ult to preempt the play to stop that engage that's coming through.
Move into the second phase, and you have to imagine again, like Ahri, very important champion in the context of this series. You don't want to give Ahri to Knight in this situation. Pantheon plus Ahri.
In any situation,
well, I mean, Knight had a quiet game 1. I'm telling you right now, he's not going to have a quiet series. The focus was very much
an LPL fan, you do want to give it to him.
Yeah, you absolutely do. So with the Mel ban, it looks like G2 is fishing for an Ahri themselves. They're very clearly saying, hey, you know what? If you don't ban it away, we're going to pick it this time around. We want to take it away from you. We want that extra bit of mobility, and Mel is seen as often that go-to answer into Ahri especially.
And Mel is just super popular in the LPL in general. That league, more so than any other, really did like this pick quite a lot. So
it's also been surprisingly successful. I kind of underrated the pick coming into the tournament, but she's been very effective. Going to be banned away. Renekton once again. They don't want to run the risk of giving Broken Blade that kind of option he's often leaned on domestically.
It's so interesting to me because, Xiaoshu to me is one of, if not the best Renekton players in the world. And they just played Sion into it and stomped him into the ground. So it is interesting to me to see them banning it out so much against BB.
I think there is an argument where they could stomp him into the ground because they could spend a lot of time towards that top side. And maybe BLG are saying, actually, we don't want to spend a lot of time ganking top. We're going to spend time around bot instead, because that's where Skumon likes to go.
I think G2's got the right read in that they're banning it because they want Ambessa. And so it's just, Renekton is a really good answer into it. They don't want to allow Broken Blade to get that counter pick. And so I think it's very much preventative in the goal of getting the Ambessa, and G2 seems to have been on the read. The Jax ban, we haven't seen it much from Broken Blade, but last year it was one of his best performing champions, and BLG showcasing that respect on the top side.
It feels like Gwen might be what we're going towards, from one of these top laners here. I do think it can be quite strong, and some of the kind of common answers are already...
Could you just blind pick it, actually?
I think you totally could. And I mean, I feel like BLG is saying you're not going to do that. I wonder if Bin would just blind it here. I mean, I will say, though, Broken Blade is one of these top laners who will slam down crazy stuff, right? Yeah. Like, he might bring out the Yasuo. The Yasuo is up. We did see him play Ignite Yasuo into the Gwen in the LEC, if I recall correctly. So that would be up and available, and I think Bin's going to do it, and I think Broken Blade is the kind of player who would slam the Yasuo as a response.
I'm just more shocked by this LeBlanc blind. Like, LeBlanc Mundo as a combo, I don't love, like, at all. And also, like, I feel that Shen is a really good answer into LeBlanc because she's, like, very single target burst, which Shen just does a very good job of dealing with. It gives you a decent amount of mobility to potentially threaten an Ezreal, but...
just ignore it and get excited about the possibility of Yasuo.
I mean, it's also capped LeBlanc. This guy has a 70% win rate on this all time. It's his second most played, if I remember correctly.
Galio as well.
It's a hard game.
This is a good draft.
This is a great BLG draft.
G2 knew what they were buying into.
It's harder than this shit.
It's not like they picked LeBlanc really early. They know what they're playing into here.
Yeah.
And the question is, will we see anything really outlandish at the end? Because I was wondering perhaps the Mundo gets flexed. towards the top lane into Gwen. It's not the easiest matchup, but there's going to be the Zehen. Yeah, so it's probably not going to be Mundo in the jungle with the Zehen going top for
That is, I think, one of, if not the worst matchups for Mundo in the game. So unless Broken Blade just feels like giving them one
Some of them blind the block. Like, it's like G2 are doing
I mean, you could go
here.
Jhin top here against the Gwen. I think it might be all right.
I mean, I'm a little bit surprised. I'm a little bit surprised to see this LeBlanc come through. I don't love it in this context. I think the BLG's
believe
answers,
in the Caps magic.
I mean,
Turn off your brain.
I believe that
Stop
BLG
analyzing
is,
things.
I've got to. BLG's draft, I think, is a really good answer. I like the sideline threats that they have with the Gwen. I think it's a really good call as well, Azale, that you had, where it's just like, Gwen based on the bans feels like a great blind. Like, you have to get, like, you're looking at an Akali counter pick or a potential Yasuo counter pick, right?
Spicy.
Like, exactly. So I think it was a great thing. I think it will outscale Zehen too, so I don't even love the Zehen as an answer. I mean, Broken Blade's got to feel confident in the matchup at the very least, otherwise he wouldn't pick it. But ultimately, I do like the global pressure that BLG have, and based on how skirmish-heavy Game 1 was, if we have the same sort of scrapping that we do, BLG's just going to have the ability to collapse first.
Yeah, I agree. I will say, though, if BLG get behind, they are going to be pretty low on damage, I think, you know, to actually kill the front line. You know, you have Ezreal. Ezreal's great, but you are looking at Ezreal Galio as your mid lane and your bot laner against a Mundo and a Zehen. So if Zehen gets ahead, if Mundo is having a good game, as we've seen Skumon have so many good games on this champion, Ezreal is one of the worst tank killers there is. So to me, it becomes so important that Bin has a good game, because Bin needs to be someone who can actually threaten these frontliners, who can threaten in the side lane. So I would really be thinking about attacking top lane if I'm Shun. And if you're Skumon, you talk about how he really does like to go bot, but I feel like you need to make sure that Bin can't just take over this game.
BLG looking to invade around the red buff here. Shun is going to spot the fact that Skumon started it. Skumon will walk into the bush and spot the fact that Shun is there. Skumon landing the cleaver, we'll get a bit of damage. Cap's going in with a distortion to chunk out Knight, making sure that he can't move across. Labrov is moving first from the bottom side as we see Shun having to flash away.
This is going to hurt Hans Sama. He can't afford to lose these minions, so now On is getting involved in the skirmish.
There's Shun coming across, heal out from On as Skumon is down to half HP. Cosmic Binding's going to land. Smite comes out from Shun, he secures the red buff, and now Labrov is going to have to flash the wall to get away with the blast cone. Great invade from BLG early on.
Yeah, that got incredibly close, though. I would love to see a replay, because I think I saw 1 HP.
I think Skumon smited and Shun didn't.
Yep. Yeah, he did smite early, because he knows that Shun, with the empowered Q, if you let him set it up, is going to outsmite you every time. So you have to just flip it. You have to just say, you know what, all right, feels like now, and you just try to hope that you get it in that spot. But love the aggressive level 1s here. BLG tried it with Knight last game, didn't turn into anything. This time, it does end up working out. You want to keep Skumon low on economy. If you're Shun and you're at level 5 at 6 minutes, that's okay, as long as Mundo's level 5 at 6 minutes too.
Labrov now making his way into middle lane. Caps doesn't quite have the chains yet. 1 minion off of level 3. Now he's got it. But Knight getting that level up at the same time means he's going to feel pretty safe. I mean, credit to On, I feel, in that play. He really did save after Shun burnt his flash. It looked pretty scary for him, but now Hans Sama very isolated from the wave.
2 CS right now. Labrov is level 1 as he walks across. Does have the heal. Hans Sama had to use the cleanse in the bottom lane to escape On and Viper earlier on. On looking for the taunt, will land it. Viper there on the chase further as Labrov with a Cosmic Binding doesn't land a stun. Valkyrie across from Hans Sama. Viper trying to survive, but Hans will get a 1-for-1 so far. On does have the flash. Hans Sama looking for the phosphorus bomb. Needs another auto. On flashes away, but Skumon is coming down. On should be able to get away from this. Currently in that red buff bush. The question is, will Skumon sneak him out? Lands the cleaver. On has the taunt, and Skumon flashes to make sure that On can't get across the wall.
I mean, BLG, I feel like, just kind of overstepped in that spot. You know, yes, they're zoning him off completely. I don't think they needed to fully send it on this play.
I think choosing Labrov was the mistake. Yes, he's level 1, but a bard at level 1 does basically nothing. If they'd invested these resources into Hans Sama, I think that this fight could have gone much more favorably for BLG. But instead, Hans, after being denied so much farm, ends up getting a kill, gains access to the wave, and now the G2 bot lane is kind of right back into this.
Yeah, they really are. And I mean, the reason they go for Labrov is because he has no flash, right? So if you taunt in as Shen at level 2 and Hans flashes it, you're cooked,
That's
right?
a good point.
So I think that's what they're thinking about. I will say, On, it's a pretty lazy recall. He could just walk to the Dragon Pit, taunt over the wall, and then I think he doesn't die. And Skewmon doesn't get that kill, and then you're pretty okay with everything that's happened. You go back, both AD carries have a kill, but you're up CS, not that bad. The fact that they donated that gold into Skewmon kind of ruins the whole level 1, which was the point. You know, you're trying to put Mundo down, you're trying to slow this guy because you know you're going to struggle to kill him later.
I think from his POV, he doesn't know how close Skewmon is, right? And so he's trying his best to out-mind game Skewmon, and Skewmon just does his due diligence. Jun now looking to contest. This time, though, Skewmon gets the Raptors. Cap's getting very dangerously low.
Yeah, Shun chasing in as well. Skewmon just emoting on him there, forcing him away. Lebrov's only just hit level 2, by the way. Spent a lot of time outside the lane, now underneath the tower. No sums for Lebrov. Hans Summer's cleanse about to come off cooldown.
You'll notice as well, Viper has a massive XP lead on Hans as well, just because of how much denial they got in the early game.
Looking for the damage here onto Hans Summer. He's down to 300 HP, and On still very healthy. Shun is ready for the dive here. Hans has cleanse, has flash, picks up the Caretaker's talent. There's the Aegis Assault Valkyrie in from Hans Summer. Shun tanking the tower, only tanks a couple of shots. The spear still connects, the Cosmic Binding onto On, but now he can hold on for the damage. Tanks the tower perfectly. BLG though, Shun gonna tank a couple of shots, and Lebrov will get one in response.
Gets a little bit messy there at the end of it, but honestly pretty well handled from BLG. At the end of the day, you don't really care that the Bard gets a kill there because you did kill off Hans. You're going to deny even more minions here. Skewmon, though, doing what he can, taking away camps on the top side, continuing to farm. He's up to level 5, has that slight XP advantage.
I was just about to say what a beautiful dive it was, and unfortunately Shun ends up falling at the very end of it. But watch this tower aggro management. They don't overstep just yet. Shun isn't committing the stun because he knows he has the cleanse. They're just using time. They manage the aggro well, then they go for the commit underneath. It's On that initially gets the tower aggro, but then the minions die. So Shun ends up getting tower aggro when he has no flash available, and so Lebrov at the very least gets something back. But the damage is done. Hans is half a level behind. He's 400 gold behind as well.
It's so good from BLG because Hans getting ahead was the way that G2 were winning the last 6 games that they've won in a row, apart from the first one of this series. But against BFX, against Gen G, it was all about Hans Summer getting these leads in lane and then being able to carry the game alongside Lebrov and Skewmon later on. Now BLG looking to punish him once again. Caps jumping in onto Knight. Down to 200 HP, but Knight able to walk his way away. Lebrov and Skewmon are trying to get across here. No, the Krugs are down. Lebrov, where's everyone waiting? Magical journey for Lebrov, but perhaps more of a nightmare. Able to heal himself up a little bit as Hans Summer tries to trade back in. Exhaust out. There's the cleanse as well. Lebrov down to 200 HP. Skewmon tanking up everyone with a maximum dosage. He has that level 6 because he stole away the top side, but a spear through his heart sends him back to the grave. In the mid lane, Caps was able to kill off Knight as it's a 1-for-1 across the map.
That looked like such a favorable fight for G2, as you highlighted, because of the level 6 from Skewmon, but the damage from Shun was devastating as he ends up turning the fight BLG's way. Meanwhile, we need a replay of mid, because I've seen that Caps was doing some stuff, but my goodness, Caps is locked in today.
What did I tell you, man? Just ignore, don't analyze, just believe in the magic.
I mean, what revenge for him, considering what Knight did to him in the last series, where he got 2 back-to-back solo kills, and now he gets a solo kill against Galio as well. Impressive stuff from Caps in the middle lane.
It's also, this whole tournament has not been about Caps. That's why G2's success here has been so shocking to a degree. Is Caps has had a couple of good games, but often he's been the struggling part on this team. And now for him in the finals, where he has been 0-6 the last 2 times he made it, to be able to get here and manage to have such a good performance against Knight is so strong. Hans Summer down to 500 HP, forced away by Viper and On.
I mean, a couple things we never got to talk about. The fact Viper is going to be playing Exhaust, and also the fact that Knight is playing Phase Rush, not Aftershock, right? So you're going to be a lot weaker in the 1v1 with the Phase Rush. The Phase Rush is a nod to the fact that it's mostly slows on the other side. You know, the Mundo slows and whatnot, so you can maybe engage, disengage. And Caps just goes between the towers, takes him down.
What? Oh, no, that was nice. But he changed the cannon mini. Okay, it was still really good.
We didn't need that replay. We didn't need that.
That was still pretty slick, man. He solo killed him between the towers.
That he did. Wasn't the cleanest, but hey, you're right. He did make it work. Viper now becoming the big threat once again, similar to what we saw in Game 1. You can start to see in the top side as well, Bin starting to build a lead of his own as Hans struggling in the 2v2.
Yeah, Caretaker's talent there used to heal him up just a little bit, but Viper on every opportunity just dashing forward. Has the tier already stacked up to 160 and the Sheen complete.
Yeah, I mean, Knight is kind of just getting pounded right now in this 1v1. He needs to be able to stabilize. You don't want Caps to run away with like he did last game. You know, you got to try to stay as even as you can, because I do think they have great compositional answers. You've got the taunt, you've got point and click CC from Shun, you've got, you know, a lot of different tools to punish Caps if he overextends at all, but you can't let him get too fed.
Grim Deliverance going in from Broken Blade, just an exchange of the needle work and that ultimate out of BB.
Yeah, one of the problems though in a lot of matchups against Gwen is, you know, Gwen, it's the Shroud, right? It's how much value you can get from it. All of G2 coming in.
Caps going in for the Justice Punch, blocking Knight's escape. Knight doesn't have the flash, but he does have a hero's entrance, and there's not enough CC on the side of G2 to stop him from making that exit.
Quick reactions there from Knight to get out of a 3-man collapse. The problem with all these roams from LeBron is you are leaving Hansama isolated, and the more he's left alone, Viper is just taking advantage of this matchup. They've both got the tier, but much further stacked ahead for Viper. He's very accelerated, and you can just see in that bot lane that lead continue to grow. A 30 CS difference now between the two AD carries.
Kind of feels like Lebrovich just basically made the call that we're losing the 2v2 anyway, so maybe it's better to just roam and just try to have you just farm it out in the 1v1, which is always a tough judgment to make, but it does feel like he's saying, you know what, it's better if I just get active on the map, and we'll see when On gets level 6, that's another really big moment for this Shen, because you can really start to pressure the map, you know, make a play top side, then still ult back bot, or, you know, alt top and look for a play there.
Absolutely. I think that these level 6 marks are what I'm keeping my eyes on, because LeBron naturally going to be very delayed. He will get level 5 just now off this minion.
Yeah, one of the small benefits for Lebrov is you do get some XP out of the chimes as Shun is looking for Caps in the mid lane with the taunt going down. Shield Vault in for the stun. Distortion away from Caps will get him to safety. Meanwhile, on the bottom side, Skumon was looking for something. On going back in with the taunt. Going to get chased down by the Cleavers. Has to burn the flash to get away.
I can see in the Coinbase gold grind there. Shun slightly ahead.
Broken Blade just going in a 2v1? Shun went up with the Grand Starfall and perhaps he just thought he couldn't get away.
Yeah, I think his play there was, if I can get on top of Shun, maybe I can get stack up my passive quickly enough so that I can get the regeneration, and if I get that up, then there's a world where I can outplay this, but immediately get stunned himself, and then the outplay comes through.
Yeah, it does look a little bit silly, but he's only a couple seconds away from the Grim Deliverance as well, so maybe hoping that, you know, you can make a little magic happen there. It's a costly death though, because that's no flash, no TP, and that has been farming plates, that has been in Shun ahead now, getting that significant advantage. And I talked about the importance of Bin in this comp. You don't have great Mundo killers. Gwen can definitely help to bridge that gap.
Magical journey in by Skumon and Lebrov as they look for Bin, who does still have the flash, puts down the Hallowed Mist. Skumon still on the chase here, with the Cleaver not connecting. Bin able to dash and skip and slash his way to safety.
This is nice though. You force the flash, you force the ult, and you freeze the wave, because that was a very stacked wave that they're going to be able to give to BB.
All right, so BB went in for the 1v1, and then Grand Starfall immediately turns the tables.
Yeah, and so he's thinking about how do I outplay this. He needs to try and build his passive up as much as possible. And so he's thinking, okay, I'll E in into Q. I mean, I do think the flash was a mistake. I think there's a world where he could have even flashed over the wall and maybe regrouped with Caps as a possibility. But the decision he made ended up backfiring, and he ends up losing his life.
You definitely heard the montage music playing there, you know?
I mean, it's also the first time we've seen BB on Zehen in his career. So obviously we'll have practiced it a bunch, but sometimes in the heat of the moment, these decisions can get away from you slightly. On having a battle with a dragon, but he's okay for now. As this is kind of more what I expected from early games between these two teams, which is BLG's lanes. Knight, notwithstanding, getting ahead, right? You see Bin with a 500 gold lead, Viper with an 800 gold lead down towards that bottom side. BLG in totality 1.2k ahead.
In game one, I think both junglers were just matching their aggression, right? Constant cross maps, constant ganks, but Mundo doesn't have that same type of agency that a Pantheon does. And so Shun is taking advantage of that. He is really looking to run the riff. A 3-1-0 scoreline. He's been involved in 75% of the team's kills, and he's just doing everything in his power to get that early lead for BLG, and he's thriving right now.
It's going to be really interesting because, you know, when you think about it's like some of the pieces of what G2 has drafted, like Mundo just really wants to play slow and scale, but LeBlanc kind of wants to accelerate the game, and it does feel, oh,
Caps toward another the tower, will be able to dash back.
It feels like it's going to basically end up being a poke comp, right? Like LeBlanc is, yes, you're an assassin, but really you're just playing for poke. Corki can play for poke. Bard can play, you know, really pretty low commitment engage. You know, you can kind of play at that range. They're going to be looking potentially for a dive on top side to respond to this, but BB does sniff it out.
Begins to back away, does have that Grim Deliverance, no flash for him.
Caps on his way as
Big
well.
wave underneath the tower. Broken Blade needs to try and clear this one out quickly. Shun looking for the shield vault. Looks like BLG now will go in. There's the pullback. Grim Deliverance coming out as well as Caps jumps across. Tempered Fate doesn't catch BLG. But G2 will be able to rebut the dive.
I mean, that The ult from LeBron ends up connecting onto the tower, which I think the goal was to protect Broken Blade or maybe even set up for Caps to arrive in time. But the fact that Broken Blade dodges it was like, oh, hang on, that could have gone very bad. But they end up making it work. They keep Broken Blade alive. Right now in a bit of danger.
Justice punches onto Skumon. I don't think they have the damage to take him out. Looking to get him down low and maybe burn a flash, but Knight wisely just walks out of there.
And even though that Bard ult, didn't connect, they did get the flash off of Shun. So that is a key thing. If Pantheon goes in, it's generally a one-way trip without that flash, and so they are able to get that. So nice cover for Broken Blade. You definitely do not want him falling further behind. Bin was such a problem for them last game, and you really do not want to see that develop once again.
I'm looking at the gold advantage for Viper, and with the role quest completed for Hans, obviously that gold gap is going to close just a little bit. I'm going to pop the Ghost. And I think he's got Trinity Force now, which is such a big spike. Broken Blade the target.
Immediately met by Shun, and there's the Stand United to follow it up. BB doesn't have the flash, no way out. BLG punishing top lane.
It's a repeat of what they did in the JDG series. They really are attacking top lane non-stop, and we need to see G2, even if you don't want to gank up there, you got to get vision, you got to get coverage, because Broken Blade goes toward that pixel brush, and Shun is already there waiting, which is always just the worst feeling as a top laner.
There's going to be a bit of a shift in the lanes now as Caps comes to collect this wave. Hans is going to move to mid so that more damage isn't done there. Role quest being completed means that everyone can open up a little bit more. Lebrov going to feel the freedom of roaming without feeling that he has to stay with Hans Sama as much. The level discrepancy between the two supports is evident, but it's on, demonstrating what we can expect, I think, from the Shen moving forward in this game.
Yeah, the ability just to beat around with a fight as he goes in for the taunt here. Magical Journey out from Lebrov will get him to safety. It's a sinking feeling in my stomach a little bit as Viper is caught with a Tempered Fate. Heal coming out from On. Viper locked up for the moment as Skumon chases him, but it's good Arcane Shift away. On, able to dash out as well. Skumon looks to steal away these Raptors. Broken Blade trading with Knight. And Skumon should be able to take away the Raptors themselves. Shun there in time though, and BB now has to walk away. Pops the ultimate as well.
On played that very intelligently. We just played in the face of Lebrov to block the binding.
Oh, Lebrov. Cosmic Binding almost connects onto On, but he's able to dash away. Meanwhile, TP's coming in as G2 are being collapsed upon. BLG looking for the fight. Hans Sama jumped on by Shun. Does have the flash, won't burn it yet. Flashes away from the spear. Bin now snipping away at Lebrov. The needle works, don't quite connect. BB has a flash of his own. He might have to use it to get out. Another spear from Shun behind the tower. Bin still trading in here, BLG. They're looking to make a pincer movement happen. The spear connects through Hans. Another kill. Now Caps TPing in, but BB and G2 can't really collapse themselves quickly enough. Caps jumps across the wall looking for Viper. Shun there on the front line, dashes onto Broken Blade. OE8 rush away as Viper flashes in. Gets the kill but bound forward. The dissonance coming in from Caps as he tries to get away, but he's locked on the wrong side of the wall, and BLG, a death baller, just A-moving through G2. Skew and BB can't do anything to take down these low members of BLG.
Such a phenomenal fight for BLG. They stayed together as a clump, so aware of every single member of G2. The threat from Caps on the flank was shut down quickly by a great taunt from On, and off the back of that, G2 falls short, and now a massive gold lead for BLG in the early game.
Yeah, that taunt from On was so quick onto Caps. The instant exhaust came through from Viper as well, and BLG really handled that well as Lebrov going to try to punish Knight.
Knight doesn't have flash. Cosmic Binding will find the stun. Dreaded Return gets the pullback as well. Taunt coming out from Knight as he looks to try and just delay his death here. Will manage to do it by quite a long shot as he gets back to the safety of his tower.
So we see Bin in a 1v3, turns his attention onto Lebrov, knows that that's the easiest target, so he gets his flash out first. But now Broken Blade has to disengage because Bin is just so strong. The damage has already been done in the river onto Hans Sama. They're just waiting for the poke to land. And so once they get that first pick, G2 is starting to think, okay, maybe we can turn this around, but it gets tracked. They see the TP come through from Caps. They're ready. On is holding on, and then Shun just sees an opportunity to go in alongside Viper, who catches Lebrov out.
Exactly. Viper just instant flash shift over the wall to try to catch
On
the
went in
over
for
On.
the taunt. Temper Fate down onto him. Shun and Viper here to defend him for now. As Shun dives onto the backline. Hans Sama needs to get away from the hero's entrance. Manages to do it with the Valkyrie, but with the Mystic shot hitting. The spear goes through his spine. BLG find another as G2 thought they had got a pick.
Nicely done there from BLG, and they want to keep fighting for more here, but Broken Blade is coming.
Has the dreaded return. Skumon with the maximum dosage. He's going to heal himself up. Knight trying to get the Justice Punch onto BB, but there's the shutdown onto On. Will the chase continue here for G2? A Magical Journey. perhaps not one that we want to take a boarding pass for, as across comes Bin on the chase. Needleworks out, getting the slows onto Skew. Dreaded return across the wall from BB. Skew has to burn his flash to escape the clutches of Bin.
BLG really wanted this red buff, and they're going to get it. They're going to walk away. It'll end up being 1-for-1 in kills. But Hans Summer, I mean, he's simply been shut down in this game. Shun has run rampant in the early game, and he's really put Bin in such a fantastic position. This man is the nightmare of the LEC and Europe, as he has such an incredible record. 16-6 is the advantage that he has over Europe in its entirety. And, oh no, this is against G2.
Yeah,
in
this
his
against
history.
G2, and I will technically say 16-7 now.
It is technically 16-7.
Yeah, buddy,
indeed.
how you like them apples, Bin?
But I mean, right now he's in a position to carry this game, as his Gwen is monstrously far ahead.
And I mean, the average gold difference of being up about 500 gold at 14, that might have gotten better, I think, across these two games, as he has really been threatening. And Shun, again, despite the loss, I thought Shun was incredible in the last game. He's incredible again in this game, and BLG are just so good at punishing missing resources. They come, they cover for On, and then they know Hans, no summoners, instant flash in there from Shun. In comes the hero's entrance. Even with the Valk, it just doesn't matter. You can't create enough space. They're so good at constantly taxing the resources here from teams, and then knowing exactly who to target, exactly how far they can go.
Absolutely. I mean, they're continuing to punish G2, who I just think don't have damage in these skirmishes. They need the LeBlanc present because of how far behind Hans is, and especially the range from Ezreal. It feels so easy for him to just follow everything up with those Qs that just continue to hit.
Viper being truly a sniper in this game, finding those missed shots constantly. A 3,500 gold lead for BLG. A Drake apiece, 2 items on Viper now with the Manamune and the Trinity Force. 2 items as well for Shun, and Bin has to be very close to his second as well. Went for the Oblivion Orb to try and reduce some of the healing coming out from BBM from Skewmond. But at the moment, BLG running the Rift. In control of everything they want. Next Drake still 4 minutes away, but there is a Baron if they want to try and force a fight and then take the Baron at a numbers advantage.
Caps still is very strong, though. He's on 2 completed items, is up over 1,000 gold. Has not really been able to accelerate that further, but does still have a lot of power here. The problem is there's Locket, there's double exhaust in the next fight because it's spellbooked over to. There's so many tools that make it really, really difficult for him to play the way you would want to play. And that is going to be the challenge for Caps. If you can no longer build an advantage in the 1v1 against Knight, how do you find an angle in onto Viper to really be able to take him down without getting CC'd and exhausted?
Also, you have to play around vision control when you're on something like a LeBlanc. The ability to strike from the shadow is so important. BLG doing a really good job of getting a couple of deep wards in here or there to make sure that Caps doesn't have an avenue really to approach the fight. Cosmic finally coming out from LeBrock's going a magical journey away from the taunt. And for the moment, G2's just still holding on to this mid. Bin is overstepped down towards this bottom lane.
Shun does have ult to respond, though. They could actually come in with the globals.
So does Knight. They go for Bin immediately. Dreaded return. There's on with the Stand United and the Grand Starfall coming out from Shun. Broken Blade will disengage. 2 big ultimates invested. The third with the needlework from Bin. G2 will be happy enough with that exchange.
Absolutely a win for G2 there. They got a couple globals out there looking for Viper.
Well, you need those skill shots to connect to really threaten Viper, and the mobility he has on the Ezreal gives him a lot of safety. But the reason why Bin is playing this way is because he knows the support that he does have. The Shen ultimate plus the Panth ultimate proving their worth in these skirmishes, and BLG's ability to collapse is just so lethal. G2 get away with it this time. Broken Blade has to commit his flash, but it ends up being a trade of 1 flash for 2, which I guess you could say is a win for G2.
I want to say, lads, compositionally, we are getting towards mid-late game. 22 minutes. We've seen a lot of games ending, 25-30 throughout this tournament. With BLG having this lead, how do we feel team fights are likely to go from here on out? How do we feel these two teams want to butt heads?
I mean, I think it's all about how much poke can you land for G2. Can you get the LeBlanc poke in, distort forward, get this chip damage down on multiple members, hit rockets for Hans? Because I think an all-in fight is going to be won pretty heavily by BLG at this point.
I feel like that Viper is kind of untouchable. They don't really have the range to go onto him. As you said, it's like very reliant on Caps. And then on top of that, Taunt connects.
Goes in for the taunt. There's the follow-up with the CC, and LeBron not given a chance to move. Shun goes unstoppable as G2 try and collapse onto Bin, but with the Hallowed Return and the TP coming in from Knight, they just can't do it. BB does have a teleport of his own to try and escape this situation, but BLG do not want to give him that luxury. Broken Blade There's no real way out for you. The question is who will be given over the kill. Justice Punch coming down on, looking for the taunt as well as BB's taunted under the tower. Meanwhile, Skumon trading with Shun in that red buff area. G2 unable to win out on that fight either.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like they had caught Shun in transition, but Viper is there to support, and Viper and Shun are just way too strong to really deal with at this point in the game. So BLG definitely starting to run away with it. Going to be able to get even more gold here onto Viper. You just look at these leads across the board. It's kind of Caps versus the world, but compositionally, his champion is just going to have such a tough time in this game.
Ooh, Caps actually dishes out some decent damage onto Bin. He's getting to that point in the game where he can be a threat, but the amount of control, the agency that BLG have, this game feels so difficult for G2 to bounce back into, largely because of how far behind Hansama has been put. This Corki really does not compare to the damage that Viper's able to execute, and that doesn't even bring into the conversation of just a side lane threat. The TPs, the Galley Wall, the ability of BLG simply to collapse feels so oppressive that G2 have no answers.
And I've just really loved how Shun has played this game right from level 1.
Yeah.
He's saying, you're playing Mundo, you want to just chill, farm, you want the game to be slow. We're going to create action. We're going to invade you at every turn. We're going to force you to respond. If you don't defend your laners, I'm going to chain dive them. You got to be there to hover. You can't be farming these camps on repeat. And it's slowing down Skumon so much that Mundo can become this brick wall where he can't be hurt, but not in a game pace like this, where, you know, people on the other team are so accelerated and you're constantly being pulled in every direction.
BLG doing such a good job there. Playing through Shun in the early game and then allowing their laners just to take those advantages and run with them. A 2k lead for Bin on that top side. Has finished the Master's Tooth now. Viper on his way to his third item as well. For BLG, really, you have to feel they can just suffocate G2 off the map. Do exactly what they've been doing over the last few moments. If G2 overextend, sure, we'll find a pick, we'll find a kill. And that's exactly what On's looking to do on LeBron. The magical journey away from LeBron will land the cosmic binding. Caps jumping across with the chains, but will just distort back. BLG, even though Bin is caught out a little bit, going a little bit too greedily, can just all walk away.
How clean is that? Mikhail's the one taunt flash. That was sick from Lebrov. The timing on that Mikhail's to just be able to walk out and say, thanks for the flash, bud.
Stand United was used on Shun.
Yeah, so it looked like that the timing was a bit off because Shun arrived bot lane, but Shen went to where Pantheon started.
Oh, I was, yeah, because I was like, why is he in mid right now?
Yeah, so the timing was a bit off. It seems like that they wanted to try and make a play onto Broken Blade.
He was late, left on the tarmac
yeah,
already.
Literally that, yeah. The plane took off.
He's just waving goodbye.
That's pretty much what happened.
Enjoy the shield!
Well, BLG, they have the Dragon advantage, the Gold advantage, and they'll likely start sending their sights onto Baron. Not that they need to force it, but the threat, the pressure. Because again, the thing about globals is that, okay, we're going to push bot, we're going to push bot, we're going to push bot. You come and try and send someone, we can then immediately transition to the other side of the map. And the pressure that Bin is able to generate, especially now that he's about to, there it is, the level 16, 3 points in his ultimate, is now devastating on the side lane.
Bin going to get chained up by Caps. Still that damage pretty substantial. Lebrov caught out though by Shun and on and with the hero's entrance. Lebrov gets into the magical journey just in time. Shun's going to get cosmic binding, but should still have the damage. Hits him with a spear, and G2 lose their support once again.
It feels as though G2 just have no agency in the game. They don't really get to decide anything. It's all BLG. And as much as Lebrov tries to contest vision, BLG is so quick at coming to collapse. Baron is a consideration, but it looks like they're not going to start that one off.
And this is kind of what I'm talking about. You know, it's easy to sit there and say, well, Lebrov shouldn't be dying. Skumon needs to walk with him to get vision. But if all Mundo is doing is walking around clearing wards, you are useless. You need economy on this champion. You need to power farm. You got to get to 16. And Shun is just giving him no ability to do that. Shun and On, they don't need gold. They just need to fight.
It's the classic, play safe, bro. He's like, I'm in my half of the rift, buddy. I'm playing bot, and he does his best to get out of there, but there is just too much of a commitment. The Galio ultimate as well, doing so much work. And again, like, these globals from BLG are netting such a huge advantage. Viper completes his third item, and BLG continue to get stronger.
G2 desperate as well. Magical journey in on, taunts away, then the tempered fate for the follow-up. Not getting anything out of it. BLG now do have an opportunity to play around that ultimate being down, and they're going to go down towards the bottom lane with the Grand Starfall. GA on Shun, no real escape for BB. Dreaded return will get the CC, goes in with Grim Deliverance as well, but doesn't have that Cultivation of War passive fully built up. He'll try and stack it on Knight for now. The taunt's going to land. There is the Resurrection, and a TP coming in as well from Bin. I'm not sure his services were required here. here. Perhaps they just want to give him the kill. As Knight did start his recall, Broken Blade taken down in the end by 3 of BLG.
Looked a little bit weird. You know, it looked like they were trying to kite out the passive stacks to not let him revive, but they could have just insta-proc the passive with Shun. Maybe they were nervous about reinforcements that were coming in, had the wrong read, because even the TP seemed like way overkill.
I think they were nervous about damage. Like, Galio is full magic resist right now, and he does not have a huge amount of threat onto the Zed.
What about the Spearman, though?
Yeah, I mean, for sure.
Sky Black Cleaver GA.
But I mean, they TP'd in clearly because they were worried about what Broken Blade could do in that situation. Perhaps it was too much respect, but it doesn't matter because there is no cross-map play for G2. Caps can do very little to stop the onslaught of Bin in a side lane. There was no Baron risk on the side as well. And BLG just continue to find pick after pick. Their third dragon in a minute's time.
The gold lead extends to 6k as they steal away this red buff. Caps looking for the flank, dives in, will land the chains onto On. Viper with the arcane shift, trying to keep Caps at bay as the block caught out. With the magical journey going out, he'll land that Tempered Fate, but been able to dash away across from it. On in the middle of it, gets away himself as Caps has to get out of the fight. Dreaded return from Broken Blade towards Shun, but Shun still has that Guardian Angel. And G2, they're trying to pick apart this composition from BLG, but they just don't have enough.
I mean, double exhaust came through, and it makes LeBlanc's life so much harder when you lose all of your damage. Like, BLG feel that they are unkillable right now. G2 do not have the damage to take any of them out.
I just love how Viper has played this. I mean, I think taking the exhaust was so intelligent. It's basically allowing him, when Caps goes in, he exhausts him and he shifts on his head because Caps can't win that 1v1 anymore. Caps has to distort back. You know, Viper did use both his summoners though, so that is something that you can look towards punishing. But, you know, as they go forward here, Viper is going to look to get aggressive onto Caps. You know, he's going over the wall. Bin has a really nice skip and slash to avoid that ultimate, and then there is that exhaust down onto him, and he's just running in, even flashing. He thought that clone was Caps, so that is something definitely working for G2.
I like it. We're making it super hard for them.
There's a famous quote from an ex-G2 mid laner. Said, even if we lose, let's make him sweat. And it seems like that's what G2 were trying to do in this game.
It's one of those intangibles, right, where even if it looks like this game is over, the mental taxation of just making it harder. It's a long series, right? If BLG do win this, they go 1-1, the ulti drops.
Powerful in from Shun, and with on there, flash torn onto Labrov. A magical journey. Well, that's not a cruise I ever want to take. Tempered Fate down on Shun, but Labrov falls for the 6th time this game. On has had his number.
Yeah, they have just been chasing him around the map here. Labrov doing his best to make it tough for him, but does end up getting taken down. And BLG just continuing to play the same style, constantly hunting this Bard as he goes for vision. And they're likely to set up around this Baron, clear out some vision, and they can look towards Soul. That is going to be a big one.
And they'll jump onto Skew. Caps has snuck into this bush. Spear out from Shun once again. Broken Blade is going to have to deal with Knight as Caps dives forward, but BLG rebuts him immediately.
I mean, look at the damage that was dealt to Caps there. I mean, when you lose like 30% of your HP, you're going to be forced away. You're going to be deterred. The Baron hasn't been started yet, though. BLG still respecting the comeback potential that G2's comp does still have. But like the later this game goes, I just don't see how it gets easier for G2. I feel like it only gets harder as Viper can leverage his range to chip away at your HP. The amount of protection that comes through against the single target damage that G2's comp largely has. It feels like that, as G2 was saying, that their goal in this game is to just make it as difficult as possible for BLG to close things out.
I mean, I absolutely agree with you. It doesn't get easier, but at the same time, I mean, Deathcap is done. You know, you have Magic Pen already in for Caps, and yeah, Viper did get his maw, but sometimes you just find that one moment. If he can get a pick, if he can get a kill, it could turn the game.
Well, Bin trying to trade back onto Caps, who dashes back. There's the Stand United, and Shun's on his way as well. Caps doesn't have the flash, torn it up, will dash with the distortion, but there's only a tower waiting for him. Dashes back, misses the chains on. Skewmon tries to come across, but On will take the kill. BLG beginning to kill off G2's only strong link.
Exactly. The hope that is existing for G2 gets shut down as Caps, he goes for a trade, but when you get a trade like that, you've committed all of your mobility. A nice punish, and again, these globals have just been so impactful for BLG here in this game. And I have to echo your sentiment from earlier, Ozell, which is that Shun really has just run the rift here in game 2.
Yeah, Shun and On together, I feel, have done an incredible job. On these pocket picks as well. His Anivia, his Shen, his Camille, just has so much agency on the map.
I mean, it gives you a lot of value in draft, too, because it's really frustrating. You can't just ban the meta. You can't just prepare in the same ways that you would against other teams, because you always have to take these things into consideration. Yeah, he's only played the Anivia twice this year, but it's in the back of your mind. Yeah. If you were considering a melee-heavy comp, you're now like, well, can we go it? Is this Anivia support going to screw our draft? You know, there's a lot of value in pocket picks simply because of the weight of them in a draft.
Now BLG setting up around the Baron. 2 minutes before the soul for them. Cloud. G2 have been on a life support for a long time at this game as BLG look to pull the plug. Magical Journey out from LeBron. Viper doing the damage, but they are trying to jump onto him. He's able to dash away. Caps caught in the hero's entrance and can't make an exit. Broken Blade on the backline will get the shutdown onto Viper, but now BLG are in a 4v2. Hunsama trying to rejoin the fray. Grim Deliverance coming out. There's a Cultivation of War passive as well, but they just can't get out of this CC chain. BLG lock them up and throw away the key. Only Stumon and Hans can survive, and BLG with 4 will turn their eyes towards the Baron.
Caps was obliterated, Hans was taken out of the fight. BLG play with perfection. Viper does end up losing his life, but it is a short cost to allow for Bin, who is pretty much untouched throughout the entirety of it. They wipe G2 off the map, they set their sights on the Baron, and it's G2 fishing, as they've often done in this game, and BLG going in with nothing but confidence.
Yeah, and it's this TP from Bin coming in behind them as Viper used the exhaust in onto Hans, so Caps goes aggressive, but he just gets CC'd up, and once Bin arrives, there is no shot. Hans is pushed immediately out of the fight, even though Broken Blade gets the shutdown, gets the passive stacked. Unfortunately, the Grim Deliverance doesn't really heal him because he's already into that revive. And then look at the CC. It's just never ending. Multiple taunts. There's the knock-up from the Galio. There's the stun from the Pantheon. The CC just getting layered perfectly. And Broken Blade doesn't get to press a button.
As soon as you're in that meat grinder, as soon as you're there as a melee, unless you have Caps and Hunsama able to actually unleash from the outside, you're just locked up. There's no way you're ever going to be able to do anything. As Viper looks at Arcane Shift across the wall, the taunt onto Stumon will land as well. Didn't have his passive up as Caps tries to jump onto that backline, but once again, it's on, sitting on Viper saying, yes, come in, I'll take the taunt, and we'll go in with the Justice Punch. Grim Deliverance as they try and get the chase on. Caps goes in, but the more shield alongside the hero's entrance, enough to keep Viper alive, and now Hunsama has to Valkyrie away as BLG continue to chase. Here comes the star fall, and the star that was Hunsama falls off the rift. G2 lose another in mid.
And just the Avengers from BLG, they're flying in out of nowhere, left, right, and center. More and more shields, more and more reinforcements. Has Viper there shot the two-shot barrage the wrong way, and you think, hey, maybe he's going to be threatened. Then there's the Stand United. Then there's the hero's entrance. More and more shields getting piled in onto him. As you can see in the priceless moment of the game there from MasterCard, the soul has been claimed. This has been an action-packed game. They're constantly chasing G2 around the rift, and now they have that much more power. And when you think about a champion like Gwen, one of the best users of Cloud Soul in the game.
I mean, what an incredible performance from BLG. The way that they have navigated this fight are flawless as they set their sights on a Skumon.
The taunt into the Aegis Assault for the movement speed so they could get the shield bot onto Skumon, but Skumon does have that maximum dosage. On has to get away. Jun will fall into his GA. Knight still very tanky, and Viper coming across. Bin on the flank as well as G2 now need to run for the hills, but Skumon getting locked up for the moment. BLG not able to get much more than Mundo's ultimate.
I will say a bit of an overcommitment there from BLG. It was fortunate that they had numbers to collapse first.
Temper Fate on Viper. Will they go for the follow-up? There's the stun. Grim Deliverance on falling low. Viper falls first. And now BLG are the ones on the retreat. Caps trying to get onto that backline. Broken Blade going for more. His first ever to hand game, and he pulls on back. Bin now snipping through Hunsama. Caps falling as well as Bin is able to get onto the backline, but he's shut down. G2 now in a 3v1 as only the Knight stands, but he bows to Broken Blade.
Wait a minute! What just happened? With the gold lead that BLG had, it felt like that this composition was immovable. They couldn't get through it, but a single Tempered Fate set off the fight for G2 to take.
It's this aggressive shift from Viper. He shifts forward, gets tagged by the very edge of it from LeBron, and they full send it. Yeah, Hans is behind, but he has an IE. He has 4 items. You will hurt. They burst down Viper, and BLG immediately realized, we gotta run. We can't take this fight. The health bars are low. It's really only Bin taking down Hans that stops us from being a total disaster, because if Hans lives, that is Baron for sure. So that was a critical kill.
It's already gone. Baron was was gone. I said, no. As in, BLG had the chance. Of course.
But they're back to life.
Oh, Broken Blade caught out here. Good Deliverance coming out as well. With the Dread Return, he will get the Cultivation of War, but the rest of G2 are nowhere near helping him. BLG looks like they used
Does he win
the
this?
Stand United Grand Starfall combo. And Betty, you were wondering if he could win. The answer, unfortunately for EU fans, is no, as BLG will take the kill.
That is very close, but G2 making them work for it here, and that is what I'm talking about. In games like this, you get late enough into the game, it only takes one pick. It only takes one misstep, because the lethality late in the game is so high on champions like this. It's like, yeah, Viper's ahead 1K, but who cares? Hans gets 2 autos with an IE and a full build. You can kill off Viper, so you gotta be careful. BLG still with a big edge here, but G2 showing they still got some claws in this game.
Yeah, the biggest concern for BLG is that this turns into an Elder flip. With the control they have over the Rift and the way that they've been consistently finding picks, I don't think they want to give that opportunity for G2. So they're going to go back to their winning ways, get vision control, fish for a pick themselves as they set their sights on this bot tier 2.
Should just be able to take the tower down. There's the taunt onto Skewmon. Maximum dosage has to be used, but the CC chain continues. Tempered Fate out as G2 look to try and turn the play. Cosmic Binding will get the stun, but the chase for Shun goes in with a shield bolt. And at the moment, without their jungler, G2 can't really contest. BLG continue their advances.
That is exactly the right play, though. Find those picks. You know you have the numbers advantage because Broken Blade hasn't respawned, and so instead they catch Skewmon out, staying way too long to protect that bot tower. They're committed to breaking open this inhibitor, and they're sending everything to find more.
It's a Starfall hunt. Someone cleansed him. Mikhail's away as they look to try and turn it, but BB in the midst of BLG will fall first. BLG now advancing. A small blip in the top side is not enough to fell the kings of the LPL. They want to even out the series as Caps tries to dive in, dashes away from the shield bolt. Now it's on the Brov and Hans. Hans will flash and get the kill on, but BLG have already opened up the Nexus, and although Viper will fall, G2's Nexus will follow him to the grave. 1-1 in the final. You do feel like the captain is there ready to rally the troops. The question is, good one. The question is whether they can rally them to take 2-1 in this series, or whether that loss, the end of a 7-game winning streak here for G2, will be the straw that broke the camel's back and will lead to BLG closing out this series.
And we were talking about this, you know, off camera, just kind of how many bin champions do you have to get through, right? And do G2 need to adjust their strategy around top lane to either focus more bans around it, or just say, okay, you know what, just slap Broken Blade on some tanks, and like that's how we're going to deal with it. We're just going to have them on Sion. We're just going to have them kind of like mitigate loss, not play to win the lane. Because in the kind of champions that he's going for, when you're going York, when you're going Zehen, you have to get an advantage. You want to kind of scrap a little bit more heavily.
I have to wonder if Renekton now becomes a high priority pick. I mean, you have a lot more experience in top lane than I do. Would you say that with these champions gone, there's like a big scary champion that Renekton's afraid of?
Well, to me, Sion, because I just think it's not a big scary champion, but it becomes that over time, right? Like the snowball starts to build.
Then does Sion Blind become the priority here?
I think Sion Blind is actually really strong with Gwen already off the table, with Ambessa banned out. Those are two, you know, really strong champions into tanks. Rumble is gone as well, you know, for that early
Aatrox would then be that next champ that's fine into it, right? And we've seen many top laners pick as an answer.
It's definitely fine, but that's kind of like the most I'm willing to say. A lot of these physical damage champions, especially with the meta currently, you know, we're seeing way less Azir. That's one of the highest DPS champions in the mid lane. Orion has been permabanned. So a lot of the mid lane APs are lower DPS. And if you are a lower DPS AP, like with Ahri or whatever, and you have a Sion top stacking armor, Sion becomes just a brick wall.
Yeah, very much agree with you. G2 foregoing their Varus ban here, allowing them to get it first pick for their first time in the series that they've been that first pick. BLG have chosen blue side, but will continue to be on the right side of the draft for now.
Xin Zhao, I think, is a really valuable jungler as well. I think that both junglers put a heavy priority on the champion, and with Jarvan, Pantheon, Vi, a lot of the classics now taken out of the pool, I think both Xin and Wukong naturally raise in priority here for Game 3.
That's going to be the trade. Yep. You give up the Varus, but you do have to give over the Ashe Seraphine as a result here. And they don't necessarily have to take the Seraphine right here. They could go Xin, because I don't think that G2 is going to go for like Seraphine Varus. It doesn't feel like it would be worthwhile. So I do really like this. And, you know, it's not just about giving over the Xin to me. It's about giving over Xin with a great angle for an Enchanter bot lane, because Xin becomes so much more problematic. You can fly in on these champions with the support of the Seraphine, and with the Encore flying through you, having that Bruiser in the front line is so powerful.
Is it weird that I feel like Skumon's thinking about Volibear?
Yes.
I mean,
what
last
about
year,
Trundle? To me, Trundle is just the obvious answer to Zin.
You're right. That makes way more sense on paper. But it depends on whether or not they want to lock in their support now, because they've decided to go for the Scion. So as we were talking about that Scion safe blind, it feels like that there aren't many great answers into it right now, unless we get Bin's Vayne top.
Exactly,
perhaps.
which has not looked good at all. If Keen looks useless on Vayne top, maybe it's time to reconsider the Vayne top.
But this has been. Bin has been the best top laner at this tournament.
He's also just not a Vayne player.
I mean, but he could be, you know?
Oh, Karma made it through the draft.
Oh, she did.
Oh, I mean, yeah, a champion that we're just so used to seeing banned, we didn't really consider.
Not allowed. You can't pick that.
I mean, and I think it's a pretty good answer into the Seraphine.
It is, yeah.
So now we've got like double range, a lot of poke on the bot side of the Rift, a lot of peel, and G2 already starting to build a front-to-back style comp. I like that Trundle that you mentioned. I think that should be a heavy priority. And then G2 should think about maybe getting rid of the Aatrox if they're worried about it from the side of Bin, or some of the other champions that he might even bring out. Maybe they're worried about Cassante, maybe even Rek'Sai is a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, Rek'Sai, obviously, you can play to just get pushed, but again, it's, you know, are you going to have as much value as the Scion? That's the question with most of the matchups. If you want to go tank for tank, I think that's completely fine. The Bin champ, I would be thinking about a bit if I was worried about a counter matchup or a carry matchup, would be something like a Camille.
Yeah,
I think the Camille can scale well into it. We've seen Bin get consistent advantages, and if I'm thinking Camille, diving on Varus sounds pretty nice. You know, you already have the Encore, you already have the Zin. So if you draft something aggressive for Knight, then you could look for, you know, an aggressive mid laner plus the Camille as a potential diving option. But you can also just go like tank for tank and scale. You can play Ornn, you can play Rek'Sai, you can play, you know, you can go Renekton, obviously. I really hate the matchup because I feel like it's so hard to slam home that advantage. But pro players go to it all the time, so it could be just a Renekton and see how you do.
We'll see if that's what BLG decide to do as we get into our second stage of bans. Nocturne taken away by BLG, Akali removed by G2. Don't want to give Knight something that he can really begin to pop off on, because as you said, hasn't really had a finals to remember so far. This guy's 7 LPL titles, most decorated LPL mid laner of all time. He runs the region, hasn't shown up so far here at First Stand Finals.
And I do think because he is generally so consistent in these high pressure situations, if I'm a G2 fan, that's making me a little bit nervous, because I think it is unlikely that Knight doesn't have any good games in the whole series, right? You know, Caps has been playing incredible to keep Knight down. If that doesn't happen, then that becomes problematic. You need other people then to be stepping up. You need BB to be able to create advantage uses. You need Skumon to have one of these massive games where he's putting Shun in the ground and really creating an edge, because Caps can't do it alone the whole time.
Wondering if this Ahri will make its way to the ban table, because if you ban away the Ahri, then does Mel suddenly increase in prio? The Syndra is going to be the target instead towards Knight. I mean, when we think about Knight as a player, Syndra and Ahri are kind of his two most famous picks throughout his career. But now that Ahri is open, but again, like, this is what I talked about, the Mel. If you leave both of them available, doesn't Mel just naturally become the higher priority pick just because of how good she is? And I genuinely feel that few teams have found effective answers into her, because that rebuttal just feels so effective at, well, most abilities in the game.
It is quite strong. And I do think this gives them a lot of poke and a lot of zone control here. You have Seraphine, you have Mel, you have Ashe, you have all these slows. You have, you know, this Zin that doesn't necessarily have to fully commit to a fight. You don't have to play full dive. You know, I was talking about the ability, you know, if he was to get something like that Akali to play alongside a Camille, play alongside something super aggressive. They're clearly considering a lot of different options here. They want to see what the full composition is going to be. And we're just waiting for the pick from Caps and Skumond.
Yeah, one of the things as well I like about the Mel is how little CC there really is on G2's lineup. Like, you have Karma chains, you've got the Chain of Corruption. Like, she has the ability to rebut the big, impactful things as we see the Aatrox locked in. Likely to be a jungle Aatrox here for Skumond with that Scion going top.
And I do like it because, you know, as you guys have rightly mentioned, it is one of the common answers to the Scion. So it's both a takeaway and it is a good pick for themselves.
That is the Anivia that locked here. 4 Caps in the mid lane. Going to be matching up into the Mel from Knight. Camille.
I got excited about the Anivia and then the despair washed over us, I see. Oh, there's the other one. I mean, when
just
we think about
hover gangplank as well. Come on, guys.
When we think about Bin and champions that he is so synonymous with, Camille and Jax are two of his most famous. If he locks in the Jax here, he's very much looking for, all right, I'm looking to be a scaling threat later on into the game. There's little that Sion can do to stop me, and while I might not have kill threat in the 1 versus 1, I have a mixed damage portfolio, which means I'm slightly harder to itemize against. And also, my goal is not to kill you, Sion, it's to kill your carries. And so I'm looking for a scrap against Hans, Summer, and Caps, and you're not going to stop me reaching that point in the game.
Yeah, and the question to me is, you know, how successful will Ben be in getting in the backline? Obviously, Anivia, no dash. Varus, no dash. If they see you and you're trying to fight through the Anivia, it's very, very difficult. You can even interrupt the leap strike, you know, with the wall from the Anivia. You can slow him down in that way, but if he gets on a flank, all of a sudden the battle lines can become very, very difficult. So I think it's going to be a lot about G2 being able to mark him on the flanks, not allow Ben to be able to get in that back line, because I think they'll struggle to fight front to back.
I ultimately like what both comps have done. I think that there's strengths and weaknesses to both sides. I think that both work somewhat in similar ways in terms of their poke. For me, the things that I think I'm keeping my eyes on is Caps on Anivia. This is the champion that earned him the finals MVP domestically, in contrast to the Jax outplay potential. These two individuals.
Play.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that these two champions kind of give agency to two standout performers today, and I think that having agency to make that outplay can be the difference in a series between these two teams.
And in comparison to last game, I think that Caps' champion is going to have a lot more agency in this game compared to last game. Very difficult game to play LeBlanc in. So much point-and-click CC, so much chain CC. You can control fights. You don't necessarily have to make those solo outplays. You can just win fights playing this Anivia.
So, question for you, hang on, which I'll get to in a second, is we have to shout out On for his 1,335 international assists, making him the 3rd all-time passing owner at international events.
I do think, though, G2 have got to start paying more attention to these level 1s. That's 3 level 1s that BLG have gone for in a row. The last 2 games, it did net them pretty nice advantages. You have to respect it. People need to start making this adjustment. You can do level 1s. You just have to hard commit to it. It's very difficult to just do stacked defenses against a lot of these plays, and they just use the Ghost early to get that Karma Flash.
We're seeing some variation in the jungle pathing as well, as Skewmon going to start on his top side, as we've come to expect. Yeah. But while we watch the jungle action, you can also check out the Act 2 Battle Pass bundle. Purchasing unlocks the Prestige Requiem Sona skin and Chroma. So if you're interested, make sure you go check out that stuff as we continue to check out the pathing of these junglers, because BLG seems like that they're going to set their sights towards top side. And again, something you've talked a lot about, Azael, is yesterday when we watched the JDG versus BLG matchup, it was that jungle top what really drove home the victory against JDG.
Yeah, if you can punish Broken Blade on this Sion, you can get him so far behind, get Bin into a lead. We've already seen what Bin can do against G2. That Mbessa 1v3 outplay in mid a couple of days ago, as Broken Blade will just try and keep himself as healthy as possible for the possibility of an early gank. BLG will know exactly where Skewmon has pathed because they had a ward on his blue buff, and it actually looks like Shun might look for an invade with his pressure from bot side.
Well, it makes a ton of sense, as Shun, I mean, he's looking for the invade here. He has full information with the pressure that he has in the bot lane.
Skewmon able to take the wolves. When it becomes lightning, Skewmon dashes across the wall. And he's able to
see there. All of the wins, you know, this is like the top teams, you know, from LCS and LEC, how many wins they have against the LPL and the LCK over the last number of years. G2 pretty much has more than everyone else combined. Yeah. You know, they have been the hope of the LEC, the hope of really any Western fan to be able to mix it up and take down these LPL and these LCK teams. And again, here at First Stand, able to do that. The best results they've had in many, many, many years. LCK has just been running things in LoL Esports, and until G2 showed up this time.
This ward actually really good outside of the bush, because then it covers the entire entrance area where Skewmon could walk through. Skewmon was trying to hug the top side of that wall that has been spotted as he starts off this blue. Shun waiting around the corner in the darkness. Skewmon does have smite, but so does Shun, and well, Shun doesn't, but he can force away the G2 jungler. That will be Scuttlecrab on this top side as well for the BLG jungle.
Yeah, and the main thing is just the push, right? You have 2 pushing solo lanes, so as soon as he's there, you have to run.
Cleanses away from the beat drop. That was going to be a stun. Has to flash as well. Viper and On winning out the 2v2 once again.
That is scary now for Hans. No flash, no cleanse, no heal on the Brav, and still missing his flash for a while. It does raise the possibility of action down on that bot side. You know, Shun could take a look there.
I mean, this whole early game is mega dominant from BLG. They've got 3 pushing lanes. Shun's pathing has allowed him to slow Skumon down very significantly. The root threat to Cap's going to force the egg out early. Not the end of the world, of course. He's going to resurrect with his full HP. But the pressure that is being exerted, being put down onto Skumon and onto all of these lanes, means that BLG is already off to a decent early lead.
They really are. I mean, the bot lane is the one that concerns me most from the G2 side, because when I think about Anivia, I think about Sion. You just have to withstand, right? As long as you don't die, as long as you aren't getting completely blasted, you hit 6, you know, you're able to start having a lot of wave clear on the Anivia, and post 6 for Sion, take a bad trade, all back to lane. It's not really the end of the world, which is one of the things that makes it so powerful. But these wards, man, they have spotted Skumon everywhere.
BLG have done their due diligence. They are so good at tracking where Skumon is, tracking where he can go, and making sure that there's just no opportunity for what has been the linchpin of G2's early game, Skumon finding ganks, finding ways in, stealing away jungle camps. And because of that, G2 feels very neutralized through the early game in these last couple of matches.
And now look at his camps. He's got Krugs up and he's got Wolves up. It's just like the worst situation for a jungler to be in, because like there's no real optimal path, where Shun has just cleared back through his bot side. He can now up towards his top side. He's gotten both crabs. Like, there's such a huge early game advantage for Shun, and Skumon's largely just left wondering and fishing for opportunities that don't materialize into anything.
I think it's going to be really interesting, you know, come time for fights, because obviously the ability to start the fights is mostly on the side of BLG, right? They're the ones that have all of these engaged tools, as Medic reacts very much
they're just tracking them perfectly. The Hawkshot, they pinged the red buff, and then Hawkshot comes up, he spots out Skumon on the Krugs.
Nobody's ever done that in the history of Dota.
I don't think BLG have been unaware of Skumon where he is for the first 5 minutes of this game. They've perfectly tracked him. It's an incredible team effort to make sure that Stu just can't have any impact.
They even pinged him out on stage. Nowhere he can go.
What can you do, man? Just locked there, I guess. Crystallized down from Caps as he tries to trade in with the Frostbite, but Flash Frost doesn't connect onto Knight there, so Knight's still very happy in this lane. Leads across the board for BLG. You look at that sea of blue down towards the bottom side. Only Labrov with a lead for G2 right now.
I mean, things looking very good at the start of this game for BLG. Naturally, the Dragon will be a big point of contention for both these teams. It's a really important objective, especially when we are going more towards a scaling game. Mathali Varus, I mean, with Skumon on the Aatrox, you do have that extra damage threat as you get later into the game. But something that I feel like we just see so consistently from LPL teams is just this, like, I call them like quad damage threat compositions, where even the jungler, like we've seen Xin do so much damage in fights at this tournament especially, and the Seraphine healing that she's going to be able to provide is going to be something that G2 will struggle to navigate around as the support or combat. Ultimately, they're just farming gold off each other right now.
And I feel like these kind of compositions are so powerful when you have such good mechanics, right? You have such talented individual players. You're giving all of them agency to create action, to find angles, to really take over a game. And LPL, I think, is uniquely good at these comps with tons of carries where you can create kind of individual skirmishes on the side. You have a 1v1 over here, a 3v3 over there, you know, 2v2s and so on. And that's something that G2 will have to deal with. Definitely want to be kind of death-balled up, I think, as their comp. And really playing front to back.
It's something G2 talked about in interviews as well. They said the difference is BLG will take the fight to you at every opportunity. They'll make a few more mistakes, but they are so willing just to take a skirmish. Whereas a team like Gen G, a little bit more methodical, still incredibly good, of course, has been. Flashes away here. Broken Blade's going to flash out of the Counter-Strike. Someone has exchanged on the top side.
I don't think that's a bad trade for Broken Blade, though. He's going to catch this whole wave coming into him. It gives the possibility for a gank in the top side later on, because I'll always argue that if a Scion... I mean, we have the luxury of casting Bounce this split, so we know that a Scion death really doesn't have that significant impact later on into the game. And
where's BB's Collector is my question.
Yeah, that's the real question.
No Cole? Is this guy trolling?
I think I saw him buy a potion.
Calls himself a professional player? Did he ward?
I mean, of course, he's a little bit behind in this matchup, but kind of where you expect the Scion to be. Meanwhile, Hans, even though he lost his flash early, has been doing very well in the farm department, and they found this really nice window to secure that Dragon uncontested as well. Mid got the push, bot got the push, recalls came through from BLG, and Skumon saw that as an opportunity. Now he's on the top side of the Rift, though. And I'm keeping my eyes on where Shun is as well, considering starting off the grubs, and he's going to do just that.
One of the things I did like about Bin trading flashes aggressively there is he was getting really low on mana, and sometimes when you get low on mana, you can get kind of stuck in these awkward lane states where the wave would be getting frozen against him. So part of what he's doing is trading flashes aggressively to just crash the wave and get a good reset. And I think he's so intelligent around playing these kind of timers on Jax, because Jax can struggle. You don't have built-in sustain early on. You can run out of mana in these lanes. So you have to know when to really trade your health and mana as a resource just to get a reset. And I think Bin is just so smart about doing that, not allowing Broken Blade to get into an advantageous lane state.
Well, so far this series, Bin, of course, has been spectacular, but Knight was the player we'll be keeping our eyes on, hoping to step up more as the series continues. And right now in this laning phase, he is oppressing the Anivia. You expect that with the Ratchet, the amount of poke that she has. Oh, Cleanse going to be used by Hans. He should be safe there, getting a little bit low. But yeah, I mean, the mid lane going very favorably for Knight in here in Game 3.
On just hit 6, though, so now this is what Hans is going to have to watch out for, because now you have no Cleanse, and the Encore just got leveled. So need to really watch out for that in these next couple minutes while he doesn't have the Cleanse.
You can see Hans backing away, not even trying to survive under the tower with the long range that Varus provides, instead saying, okay, with Shun, especially in the area, I'm just going to back away. No reason to risk trying to flash out, trying to get a Chain of Corruption down. They will give up a huge wave, though, underneath the tower, and BLG extend their gold lead to about 1,000 overall. Labrov coming back out on the map, still has about a third of his XP before he gets to that level 6. And no real neutrals available to either team. Crystallize down, Flash Frost, used late so the rebuttal doesn't get it as they look for the damage here onto Knight. Mandrain of Flame going to come out as well, but Knight still at 150 HP. Looking for the Solar Snare, doesn't quite land as BLG are able to buff up their mid laner and get him the push out.
Decent damage onto Knight. The threat of a kill there was very real, but ultimately it's just a heal that was expended by Labrov. He's very close to level 6. I imagine he'll want to stick around mid lane to secure that final level.
It does feel like Merc Treads are kind of a must for G2 this game when you're looking at how much CC is there, and it is one of these comps where if one bit of CC hits, all of a sudden, there's the Snare from Mel, there's the Root from Seraphine, there's the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, there's the Encore, there's the Counter-Strike. It just kind of never ends, so Tenacity going to be pretty important. Would love to see a Mikhail's early for Labrov as well.
The health advantage that G2 have with the numbers advantage. The Mel's going to TP back in. A bit of a scrap.
Skewmon looking for the smite. Goes over to Shun. Now Skewmon hops the World Ender to try and get out of this. Crescent Guard Wind becomes lightning, doesn't land. Nor does the Solar Snare, but Skewmon has nowhere to go. First blood, BLG.
I mean, he thinks that because Mel has gone back to base, Caps has the push, and Broken Blade has more HP, that this is a favorable play for him. But Caps actually had no mana. There was nothing he could contribute to that skirmish, which meant that Shun says, hey, I mean, this is a free win for me. He takes first blood.
On the bot side, Viper ghosting in, looking for the damage onto Labrov, who uses the Inner Flame well to keep Viper at bay. Because of that, G2 will be able to walk away.
Yeah, and they're trying to trade aggressively with the Ghost, knowing that the arrow is back up yet, and there's no cleanse. There's no cleanse for Hans. So if they can get Hans low at all, they can look for a potential arrow into Encore, look for that aggressive play, but G2, paying respect to that, is playing pretty defensively.
Skewmon, though, with an early blunder could cost G2 a lot. When we think about, I mean, so much of the conversation so far this tournament for G2 has been how excellent Skewmon has been. On force to heal.
Flashing in with the Inner Flame, trying to force on splash out. Caps flashes away, not put into the egg. Glacial Storm for a little bit of a slow in the end. On did have to flash and heal in the bottom lane.
I feel like that was a bit of a bluff from Labrov, because, I mean, Skewmon is just hitting the scuttle, has no ult, no flash. I don't think he really could have got down there, but On does respond with the 2 summoners, so it ends up going pretty well there for Labrov.
Radiant Volley just short of clipping onto Caps. Unstoppable Onslaught used onto Bin. Counter-Strike coming out as well. Broken Blade walks away from it, and Bin has to flash first. The risk of BB flashing in with the auto. Bin escaping the clutches of the Scion, but BB winning out on the 1v1.
I mean, great play from Broken. I'm honestly a little bit shocked. I wasn't expecting this matchup
it's not
to go
often
that
we
way.
see Bin lose against G2 in any way.
I need to, again, we're in the Messi of League of Legends is in our region. How can, we, of course, have excellent Scion players there. We shouldn't know, looking for a fight.
Encore onto Labrov, who doesn't have the flash. Caps trying to come across. There's the Enchanted Crystal Arrow as well for the follow-up onto Labrov. Into the Solar Snare. The Karma finds her just as desserts as Skewmon follows suit. 2 more kills to BLG, and now a 3K gold lead.
This team just punishes missing resources so well. Labrov just did this flash trade on bot side. Instantly they collapse on him. Even with the Mikhails, it just doesn't matter. The CC chain will not end. I just think Shun is playing on another level this series. This guy, to me, has been the jungler of the tournament, and he is just so confidently moving forward. There's the Encore, there's the root, there's the arrow, there's the solar snare. It just never ends.
I mean, I'm shocked that G2 trying to force this skirmish, especially given the state of the bot lane. Varus was so far away, and Anivia offers so little in these early skirmishes.
It's fine, guys.
You need to play a slower game. Broken Blade trying to keep the mental strong, reminding the team to just keep focusing, but this gold deficit is huge. It's the biggest one in the series so far, and as we check out the coin-based gold grind, you can see a bit of that gold advantage coming through from the top side, but really Shun and Viper where a lot of this lead is sitting right now.
Shun just having such a strong early game as again they find Lebrov. A singular ward in that bush near the wolves. He's going to dodge away from the wind becomes lightning, but Lebrov he doesn't get to control any of this jungle. Skumon is on the top side, so Lebrov a little greedy walking in by himself, but he's trying to get down to Hansama because Hansama is now between the towers in the bottom lane with no recourse to actually step up to his turret.
Exactly, and Lebrov is revealed there by Knight in mid lane again, so Hans can't do anything. You're just going to lose the entire wave, you're going to lose more plates, and Viper has this big advantage now. Things starting to get tough for G2. You know, if you can withstand the early storm, sure you can scale, but they're starting to really convert these advantages and get them bigger and bigger leads. And now they're gonna have to move the Sion down to the bot side because they know Hans must farm. You cannot just be sitting there doing nothing. So they're gonna send Sion down to bot side. They're gonna move Hans mid, and Caps is gonna have to play in the side lane, which can work, but again, Anivia very gankable. You are very low move speed. You really can block people coming straight at you, but if they get behind you, it can be tough.
You know, I think back to the draft and how G2 prioritized this Varus and banning the Nautilus themselves. Remember that when they played against the Ashe Seraphine before, they drafted ulti, doesn't quite connect, but they drafted the Misfortune plus Nautilus as an answer, and by going for the Karma Varus, they're saying, we can match in the 2v2, but they've fallen short there. Skumon hasn't been able to successfully play with this pressure. Instead, Shun has been the one continuously punishing, and now G2 are just trying to fish. As the first tower of the game goes the way of BLG, they extend the goal lead to 4.3K. And I mean, BLG, it feels like that this game is over before it's even really begun.
And I mean, the lane economy snapshot, they're lying to you because Bin just took the first tower right after that. So he is now 1.2K ahead. The top side, again, massive advantages. But this game, it's the whole map. And it is G2 really falling out of it. This does feel like one of these games when you get this far down this early, you kind of get one good shot, right? You have to choose your moment. You have to say, all right, when we hit 2, they won't have 3 items yet, and we're just going to try to force a fight, right? But the problem becomes, at that moment, BLG can just play through side lanes because Bin is on the Jax. They don't need to take the fight.
Viper ghosting in Cleanse and Mikhails, or just the Mikhails out there on Hansama. Didn't have to use the Cleanse himself. Lebrov in the area to protect him.
Well, just a bit of trading. We've seen this a couple times now between the 280 carries, but it is Viper that holds onto that very healthy lead. Cap's starting to trade back a little bit more favorably against the Mel now that he's completed his Rod of Ages. Something we often see from Caps is he forgoes the tier build and instead just chooses to go for the single mana item, then into AP. It gives Anivia that earlier spike so that you're not waiting as long before she becomes relevant, which in the current pace of the game and the meta, I think makes a lot of sense.
Exactly, and especially in a game like this, if you're going tier and you're waiting for the row, you're waiting for the Seraphs, it's going to be so late. You need earlier damage because, as I said, you are bleeding out. You're probably only going to get that one big team fight. And if you win that fight, the game goes on. You really have a good chance there later on. But luckily for G2, one thing working for them, they took one early dragon. So at least you're not going to be drawn into a soul fight super early on in this game.
G2 looking to see if they can catch out Bin in this bottom lane, but the wave not big enough really, even with the Decimating Smash coming out. Bin still has his flash and the Grandmaster's Might and enough tools to escape the clutches of G2 because Skumon is down in the bottom lane. BLG will open up the Rift Herald in mid. It's On that's going to ride it into the tower. They get it down to about half. Chain of Corruption goes wide in. A flame will land as Skumon comes in with the World Ender. They're trying to kill off Viper. Caps has a flank position here as well. The Encore comes down. Everyone dodges away from it, but Viper's able to flash the wall. Even with the crystallized, BLG now begin to collapse. Decimating Smash out from Broken Blade. Bin on the backline. Hansama has to extricate himself from the situation, but even with a cleanse and a flash, you can't cleanse Bin. He takes one. BLG just absolutely sweep away G2. You get one shot, and you're damn well missed.
An absolute slaughter
in favor of BLG as they punish the aggression from G2. Viper doesn't even lose his life. He's able to flash over the wall to get to safety, and what G2 thought was an opportunity just resulted in their demise.
This impressed me so much how Viper plays this. I thought he was absolutely screwed in this position, but he holds his flash for so long, and it felt like G2 were kind of waiting for him to commit to it before they go in. The Encore buys a lot of time. He flashes over the wall. Even with that Anivia wall coming in behind him, he can rejoin the fight. Bin arrives, and Hans has no chance at all. They proc the egg. He gets into the back line. Viper survives. And you said him at a Q, really get one shot, and this one did not land whatsoever. BLG running away with this third game. I talked about it in draft. You can't count on Knight being held down in every single game, and this time Knight has a big advantage for himself as well, and it's the whole map that are just dominating for BLG.
It's just what BLG do so well. Individual brilliance topped off with pretty solid team fighting and team coordination. A 7,500 gold lead. They're going to secure their second Dragon of the game. And you look across all the key carries, 1.6, 1.8, 1.2, 2.3k ahead right now. G2, if they manage to come back from this, it would be something pretty darn miraculous.
Cheryl not going to quite connect onto Hans Summer, but absolutely BLG.
Encore onto Skewmon. On just thinking we can take this trade. Chain of Corruption is going to land. Viper on the chase. Skewmon forced out of his own jungle as the Brov trades with Knight. Caps trying to come across. That's TP in by G2. Rebuttal down. Knight has to flash into the Baron pit. He's locked in there, but they can't really follow up too much. Even with the decimating smash in the end, Caps will manage to secure the kill.
Really nice wall there, and they take advantage of the fact that Bin used his TP in the last fight, so Bin is still pushing bot. G2 kind of need to force more. You got that one kill, but you can't just give him a full tower bot to Bin and only get that.
They're going to force the Baron. Yeah, they have the numbers advantage. No Knight available. I mean, this is their Hail Mary play.
Bin has no TP. He's running. He's lagging it. He wants to be here for the fight because if he's there, you have to feel that BLG can win it. No Encore, no Enchanted Crystal Arrow, no flashes either for Viper or for Bin. Shun trying to get in to steal this away. Lebrov on that front line. Crescent Guard down. Good double knock. Good double CC from On. Broken Blade trying to dive onto the back line as the Baron has been stopped, but On is already down. Chain of Corruption is going to land onto Shun as Skewmon goes in for a bit more of a chase. Bin has finally arrived, but they stun him. The Flash Frost. Maybe going to bury him under an icy grave. G2 find another. The Golden Eclipse says goodnight to Hans Summer. The G2 have somehow found 2 fights to get back in the game.
I mean, it's the best case scenario for G2 because while they didn't quite secure the Baron, they get shut down gold, they get kills, they slow BLG down, and it was a 7.5k gold lead that's now been shrunk to 4k.
And when you need something special, when you need a little magic, believe in Caps as he lands the perfect wall. They kill Knight over the wall, and they know, okay, no TP on Bin, he's pushing bot. You can't just go for that. So even if it's a 1% chance, if that's our best chance, we will send it. Shun goes in early, but Lebrov lives for so long, and then the CC comes through. Viper is dancing around in this fight, playing incredibly well, but the amount of CC they have means they knock down Shun. Bin is getting kited out. It's not until Knight arrives and lands this solar snare there on to Hans. That bit of damage and the ultimate coming through, allowing them to kill off Hans. Otherwise, it could have been so much worse for BLG. But G2, again, they never go down without a fight, and that's something I've always admired about this team and admired about Caps rosters. They're going to look for the best chance, even if it's a slim one.
And now the good news for Caps is he's about to tick over. Oh, hang on, Lebrov.
Bad news for Lebrov is he's about to dive. Eddie in a flame coming out won't be enough. With an arrow and a follow-up, Caps getting jumped on by Shun, who uses the Crescent Guard to try and make that Anivia into an omelet, but Shun is a little bit too deep. Counter-Strike coming out, Bin there for the chase, On coming in as well. Hans Summer will kill off Shun, but now Skewmon needs to retreat because the Encore finds 2. It's a double up for On and a double kill for Bin. A decimating smash out of Broken Blade trying to save Caps here, who will resurrect, but will he just be brought back to life to immediately die? Glacial Storm enough of a slow. Viper coming in from the side, Broken Blade trying to retreat to the safety of his tower, and BLG will call off the dogs. They won't look for more.
A semblance of hope is given to G2, and BLG quickly take it away. Broken Blade, though, still fishing for more. He wants to get that kill onto On, but he won't find it.
Has to flash across the wall to escape BLG, who will be able to take this tier 2 in mid. Actually, with the TP out from Caps, it looks like BLG will decide that discretion is the better form of valor. Caps trying to chase in the volley enough to slow him down.
Yeah, Caps just barely surviving to bin there. Didn't have enough damage. The egg is actually very tanky. Couldn't quite knock him down before the revive came through. And Broken Blade did a good job peeling for him, keeping him as safe as he possibly could here. And this is, another fight starting out. Lebrov getting caught out has been a pattern in this series.
Oh, we're going to go back to live as the action kicks off once more.
Caps being slowed up, hasn't got out and just been on the flank. TP coming in from Broken Blade as well. G2 need to mark Bin. Hansama flashes away from the counter-strike. Broken Blade on the front line. Stopwatch from Bin. Double control wards just to spot him out as he dives onto the back line again. The counter-strike, the flash forward from Viper. Bin is unstoppable. And Viper's here to sink in his fangs. BLG will wipe away G2. For a moment it looked like the EU representatives could find a way back in, but BLG just slammed the door in their face.
And Bin just found such a good angle there. He had the Seekers, he flies into the back line. Sure, Hans can flash the first Counter-Strike, but that's what the Seekers is for. Buys the time for the cooldowns to come back up. He can do nothing about the second. Hans is food for the Jax. BLG grab the Baron and have a stranglehold in this game.
And a flash from Viper as well in the midst of that fight. He just says, okay, I'm tired of being zoned away by this Scion. I actually don't care about him at all. I want to get into the thick of the action, and he did just that. BLG reclaim the gold lead that they once had, but themselves in the powerful position that they had earlier on in this game, and they will start to stifle that hope that G2 had built up here in Game 3.
A monstrous lead now for BLG. 7.7 thousand gold their advantage. 3 items on Viper, almost 3 for Knight. He's just short of the Rabadons, and now with the Drake available, Lebrov has to flash away from that enchanted Crystal Arrow. If he'd been caught, once again we would have seen him going down. BLG just forcing G2 entirely onto the back foot.
Yeah, and this time it's Broken Blade pushing top. He has no TP, so I don't think G2 are really looking to contest this. Of course, he is going to base and could join potentially with that ult, but I think with Lebrov losing flash, there's just no way in. So you just give up that third dragon, hope that you can somehow contest at that next one, deny the soul. But BLG aren't going to give you time because they have the Baron buff. They're going to push through multiple lanes.
Broken Blade going in with the unstoppable onslaught. Now BLG all able to dodge it. Crystallize coming down with the wall as well. The encore on BB. He might be tanky, but he just can't survive the onslaught that is BLG. G2. Desperation ringing through them. Go for the engage. Can't find it. BLG now with a man advantage can look to push in and go to match point.
I mean, BLG Game 2 played the game a little bit slower, but here in Game 3, they're not wasting any time at all. With the Baron buff, they are melting these towers. G2 only have 4 members left alive, and they just don't have the wave clear needed to stop this siege from BLG. An inhibitor will fall. The tower protected mid, but for how much longer with this siege coming through for BLG?
Arrow not onto Skew when he dashes away afterwards. Soulless Snare just short as well. The beat drop not quite connecting onto Lebrov. Good flash bosh on Knight, but Mikhail's away on form, finding the support for his team. Flash Frost again is going to land onto Shun, but it's Caps on the front foot and the rest of the team not able to really catch up. BLG walk away from it after taking the bot lane inhibitor and garnering a 10,000 gold lead.
Yeah, all G2 can do is just try to get out here, take a scuttle, claim some vision. You need to keep looking for these very difficult plays. BLG feel like they are one fight away from match point here unless G2 can pull off a miracle. But when the luxury items start coming through, it's really, really tough. I mean, Bin has been on that Seekers forever, has not based. He's going to have full zone. He's pretty much guaranteed when he bases. I would be worried that Shun is going to have a full GA when he bases. The death cap is done there for Knight. A Last Whisper is just perched up for Viper. They have so many tools now, and not quite having that GA, so at least that's something working for G2, but BLG just playing it out beautifully here and in full control of this game.
And for BLG, how many times have they been this close? How many times have they got that second place? So we see the Zhonya's completed for Bin. You look back to Worlds 24, MSI 24, Worlds 23, they got knocked out in the semifinals. A lot of decorated players on this lineup. Bin, Knight, Viper, all of them have claimed titles in the past, but as an organization, as a roster together, they have never claimed that final prize. As Shun is looking to take them for that one game away. Arrow was Mikhail's away. G2 now trying to fight over this mid prio as Bin keeps Broken Blade Honest, at least, as he goes down to 2/3 HP. Only one cannon minion in the mid wave is going to get cleared out. Caps flashing for the Crystallize. The Encore only onto the Anivia, but that might just be enough as Caps look for the play. Crescent Guard coming out. Stopwatch as well. Bin on the backline, and Hans Summer, he just doesn't get a chance to do anything. Bin is taking names and putting them right in the trash as he wipes away the backline of G2, and BLG are trying to etch their name on the first stand trophy. One more game for BLG, one more game for the LPL, 2-1 to the LPL first seed.
People always used to talk about, so I feel like it's tough, you know, like how do you get a more advantageous support for a 2v2 than what they've already been playing?
Whoa, okay, we're very deep into the draft very quickly. So let's quickly recap, because Caitlyn, Nico, and Ambessa were all taken away. Cassante was first picked by G2, which honestly is very surprising when so much of this conversation has been about support and, bot lane and jungle. And like that was going to be the follow-up to my point, which is that I think jungle has had a huge impact on bot lane's ability to get prio, because it felt like that in games 2 and 3 especially, BLG did such a fantastic job of mitigating Skumon's impact and limiting his early jungle clears, which slowed him down throughout the rest of the game.
Broken Blade, I think, did a pretty good job of mitigating Bin in the earlier stages of last game, so it's something I will say kind of did go better. Obviously, Bin then was Bin in team fights. He's playing his Jax. He was a problem, but I do think they did a pretty good job with that.
I think this Xayah pick is such a good idea from BLG, because when you lock in the Vi, Xayah like gets so much value, especially against a champion that wants to dive into you. Having that ultimate punishes you so effectively. So BLG choosing to take it away, and now Rakan immediately raises in priority. And with Poppy already taken out of the pool, the pressure is now on G2. Do you look to take away the Rakan? And if you do, you're then going up against On's Alistar. Yeah. So like, I think BLG have come with a great approach into this first 2 picks.
Yeah, there's also the option of going Leona, which was always kind of that old classic counter into the Rakan. Corki is up and available, which is something I kind of think about. You know,
Corki was picked.
Excuse me, Corki was picked earlier. So we'll have to see where Hans actually wants to go here.
Because like Misfortune, I think, doesn't make any sense. It doesn't have enough self-peel.
Misfortune against Vi is
But with both
terrifying.
Ezreal and Corki gone, you're a little bit limited. Sivir as well would be high on my priority list, but that's also gone too.
Blade, yeah.
They could consider maybe a Jhin, just because.
Hate Jhin.
Yeah, I mean,
that champion is just trash, man. Okay, I like this more.
Sure.
Yeah. I feel like, yeah, Jhin and Kai'Sa are the two that kind of I was ending up on, where it's like, okay, you either join the dive or you use something to try to absorb the dive. I just think Jhin is just garbage, and especially these Ghostblade builds, they just deal no damage. So I like this a lot more. Now you are kind of setting yourself up for a pretty aggressive comp. I do think it gives the opportunity for BLG to try to draft to absorb that. I was a little bit worried for G2 that On could have just gone like Renata here, honestly, or something along those lines, because when you're already showcasing dive in relatively low range, I think that can be a bit scary. I think for BLG, you probably want to ban aggressive pairings for this, because if you have Kai'Sa, you want to go in Kai'Sa Rakan. I'm thinking about champions like Akali rising in priority, like Sylas maybe even rising in priority, especially because there is the Alistar. So I feel like Sylas is kind of a must ban. And then to me, it's a question of, do you care about Akali or not? But Maokai so far, I'd be shocked if they leave Sylas up. I feel like Sylas goes so hard.
I think G2 should be worried about Ahri and Syndra once again. I think both of those pair very nicely alongside the Vi, and they're both just mega comfort picks for Knight. Akali, as you also mentioned, is...
But wouldn't you be happy playing Sylas into the Ahri with an Alistar ult steal? I feel like that's actually, that's about as good as you can get.
So personally, I just don't like Sylas into Xayah. I think that throwing more melees into a champion that wants you to come to her and can punish you so effectively. And right now, I don't think Sylas has great setup. Like, Rakan alone is not enough. I need to know what jungler they're thinking about. And the jungle options, I think, are now becoming a lot more limited with Vi taken out of the pool. So Sylas, for me, like, I see the value specifically into the Alistar, but I kind of need to see what else G2 is cooking in terms of what they would pair up alongside it in the jungle.
Possibly something like a Malphite. The ability to jump on the Xayah. Yes, she can ult up out of your ult, but then you follow up with a quickness, right? Like, so you have some option to like have a dive onto that Xayah, but it is obviously really risky and not something we often see from Skumon.
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of just the 80 jungler tier list, right? We can look at things like Neferi at this point. You can look at things like Wukong hasn't yet been played.
True.
You can look at Malphite potentially. There's Viego. There's a lot of junglers that are still up and available. Kali will be banned. I think that makes a lot of sense. You know, again, from BLG's side, I feel like when you see Kai'Sa, you see Rakan. they're going to pair it with dive, right? You kind of just have to. And so banning away that Akali, I think, makes a lot of sense. I'm curious where BLG will go on 4. They are going to ban the Syndra as well as the Ahri. So that would take away some of these strong matchups. And yeah, I really feel like Caps is maybe going to go Sylas here. I could be way off base, but
I see the angle as well.
Yeah.
I see the angle, even if Vedi isn't perhaps 100% sure about
especially
the draft.
with all the protection bans.
Yeah, it would make a lot of sense. BLG likely going to look towards their top laner here, knowing already that Casante's in. Bin on the Camille. He's just going through his greatest hits across the course of this series.
He's got a lot of them.
Yeah, that he does. That he does.
That is really scary. That is so much dive. Like that's.
I like how just no matter what Bin locks in, he's like, oh, that's
like
tough.
Don't like that at all. I mean, it's just, I feel like it gets a free lane to Casante. Casante, I really feel can't punish it. And also, like, okay, sure. A Vi goes in, Kai'Sa then, okay, you've ulted me, I then ult out. Bin then says, nah, you're staying right here with me, buddy. So the dive threat from BLG looks really nice right now. G2 taking into consideration their options. And yeah, so this is the thing that I was like more mindful of, is that like depending on what jungle option they feel they're limited to, largely determines what options Caps has. And it seems that team fighting seems to be the direction that they're going. So this Kai'Sa is less about diving and more about the self-peel. Going to be using the ultimate to try and outplay the Camille and basically try their best to stay alive.
TF is interesting. You know, if you go TF, you are playing to the sides. I don't really like Cassio. That's a little bit strange. I mean, I think it's compositionally a good answer. In the 1v1, definitely don't like it into Victor. Can be a pretty tough matchup. You're getting outranged. And Victor, and a lot of these kind of like against these mid-range mages, you're just getting laser poked on cooldown, and it can be a little bit difficult. That being said, the miasma is problematic for a lot of these champions.
Basically all of G2's champions apart from the Victor. And then the fact you're running into the Cassio and you have that petrifying gaze, it's very concerning.
So to me, you know, this is not a lane pick, this is a compositional pick. He's saying you are going to be trying to dive in on us, you're going to be trying to come forward with 4 of these champions, and all of a sudden you have to go through the petrifying gaze, through, you know, this combo there from the Alistar, through all the feathers of the Xayah, and really just trying to make it difficult compositionally. But it does open the door for Caps to set him up for success in the 1v1. And we saw in Game 1 and Game 2, he was doing very, very well in that 1v1 against Knight, which would be huge.
Once more into the breach, my friends, as BLG are 1 game away from claiming the LPL's first international title since 2023 MSI. For G2, it's do or die. They have to win this, they have to win the next if they're gonna put Europe at the top of League of Legends. And it's been a long time since 2019 for G2, for Caps in particular. For BLG, still looking as an organization for that first ever international trophy. Let's make our way onto Summoner's Rift and see who of the LPL and the LEC can fight first in this game.
I mean, BLG, as an organization, they've gone through so many different variations. And last year, I mean, we all remember it, I don't know, what's the right word? The number of junglers that they went through, it just felt...
Slew?
Yeah, slew. I mean, it did. They tried so many different iterations, and they ultimately landed back on Shun, right? They realized that this was the man that kind of did bring the team together, and like it's been overused, but it really is true. Like this roster playing with Shun, it feels like that they are complete, they are whole, and that shouldn't take away, as you've done a really good job of highlighting throughout this series, how impactful he has been as a player at this tournament. Whether it comes to individual mechanics, his great decision-making, and his synergy just with On, it's been so important to create BLG's early game, which then enables these solo laners to do what they do so well.
Hey, being the glue guy doesn't mean you can't also be the GOAT. But
I think it's horses that are usually turned into glue, actually.
Okay. I mean, he has been smurfing it so far. Good thing for G2, though, no crazy level 1s happening, which has been something that BLG have been going for a lot and getting some nice advantages with. You can see Caps is playing Airy, so will be Conqueror there for Knight. You know, more of that scaling option. Interesting that Viper is also going to be going for that Conqueror. I feel like Xayah can kind of go a lot of different ways. You can go Conqueror, you can go Lethal Tempo. I've even seen some people playing PTA, so that's kind of dealer's choice.
With the jungler starting on the top side of the map, we'll be working their way down towards bottom. Viper still very healthy on this bottom lane as Hans Summer's down to half HP. He's had to go through all of his potions already. They're both trying to trade in. Gleaming Quill, really what you want to use early on this Rakan into the Alistar. Knight very low on health and mana. Is just able to walk out of Caps' clutches.
Very much what Azel was talking about during the draft, where this Casio just kind of gets outranged. Victor is a very good early skirmisher when it comes to the laning phase, and so Caps has done a good job of just pushing him out. With the bot prio and the mid prio that they do have, though, Skewmon has used this opportunity to steal away a camp. Level 2 for the bot lane of G2
Shun is fighting him for it. Skewmon looking for the smite here. 700 HP on the red. Skewmon, the smite comes down, but it's Shun that will secure it. No, it's Skewmon, in fact, as LeBron tries to come across. Caps there as well. Miasma down. Excessive force from Shun. Skewmon flashes for the kill, trying to heal up with the red buff here, but Knight will be able to take him out with an option last. BLG will even out the fight 1-1.
Yeah, I just don't think it's worth it at all there for G2. I mean, Skewmon was fighting the red buff. They're going to keep going.
Heal from On, looking for that trample stun as well. Not just blast, gives Knight the movement speed, has double buffs as well as the Brov tries to keep him at bay. Needs the Gleaming Quill healing, but even with the Siphon power, the shield is not enough. Knight 2-0 to kick us off.
I mean, Skewmon is fighting the red buff. Shun is fighting Skewmon. You know, he's just hitting the red buff because he has the smite advantage. Shun had no smite, so he just kept hitting him. And it could have been worse. Skewmon smote that to 1 HP. It almost went to an E from Shun, which would have made even worse there. But Skewmon is back out on the map. Wanted to keep this pressure on, but that was then double buffs donated to Knight, then the follow-up kill on the Caps. Now you've taken your winning lane for Caps, and you've donated 2 buffs over to Knight, 2 free kills. And just like that, it's going to be a kind of a free pass out of the early game for the Casio.
Yeah, the Casio is getting accelerated, which is always a scary position to put her in. So we look back, and exactly as Azel is saying, Shun is just hitting onto Skewmon, dealing good damage. Caps then arrives on early flashes to get in range as quickly as possible. Knight commits his flash as well. And then this was the decision. Skewmon's realizing with the bot lane collapsing through and Kai'Sa too far away to join the fight, I feel like I have to go for a 1-for-1, but then On makes the smart decision saying, I still have my heal, Caps has no flash, you've got unlimited mana because of the blue buff, let's chase this down, and they do just that.
Yeah, they're able to do it really well. I mean, Caps tried to get a sidestep there on the Noxious Blast, couldn't avoid it, and that second one connecting was going to be his doom. I mean, the speed up from the heal from On was pretty critical there as well, but just not what they would have wanted to see. The golden left hand of the LPL Knight has been running things in that league for a while. 7 LPL titles. Skewmon going to be warded out, and Shun is in the area. This guy has just been stellar across multiple rosters, multiple teams. He is, to me, the greatest LPL player of all time.
Yeah, and was part of the roster that last won an international title for the LPL. JDG back at MSI 2023. Now looking to add another trophy to their cabinet here at First Stand 2026. BLG once again out to this strong early lead. Leads in mid, lead in top. About 1,000 gold, their advantage across the board.
And things looking very favorable for BLG once again in the early game. G2, they're going to have to navigate their way through the fights as Caps ends up losing a cannon minion there as he was trying to interrupt the base from Knight. Knight should have a pretty healthy, like, I don't think he's actually gone back to base since that skirmish, so he's probably sitting on a decent amount of gold as well. Meanwhile, this bot lane, I mean, it kind of only gets harder as the levels come through. Alistar having a lot more playmaking power, even though On doesn't have any summoners available to him. He's still threatening very nicely in this bot lane 2v2.
He is, but Viper hasn't bought yet, so they definitely are just looking to get a reset. We'll see if Skewmon can get any sort of advantage. That's a very slight gold lead, did get that kill, so got a bit of an injection. And we'll see if he can find an angle. They don't want to let Viper get this reset, but it's going to be tough to stop.
Shun is in the area as well. LeBron looking for the grand entrance. Knockup has to flash away from the blades pulled back from Viper. Would have rooted him up. With Shun coming across, it would have been an easy enough kill for BLG. Shun now getting level 6 as well before Skewmon means that the Drake should be pretty easy for BLG to secure. Halfmaker in from Broken Blade onto Bin. Gonna trade in, then avoiding the walls. Broken Blade could go forward with the all-out. X-Golden Maiden still available to the Camille as well, and it looks like in the end with the adaptive defenses coming up for Camille, it will just be Broken Blade backing off.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest, this early game just looks so devastating for G2. Very reminiscent of what we saw in Game 3. The advantage that Shun has over Skewmon is monstrous as On sets his sights onto mid.
Yeah, goes in with the trample. That's a petrifying gaze as well. Caps was able to dodge to the side of it. Didn't get stunned up, even with the exhaust. Is able to walk himself to safety.
Yeah, nicely done there. Skewmon coming to cover, Lebrov there to cover. That could have been an angle for a kill. But it's just so hard now because Victor plays this a poke style against Casio. But now Casio gets 2 early kills, you get the 2 buffs, then you have an early catalyst, and all of a sudden you're kind of just ignoring the damage and hitting the wave.
And look at how quickly you're accelerating that tier as well, ramping that one up. On is doing so much work in this early game.
He's just everywhere right now. Skewmon will get the smite on the red buff. Trample coming out from On, knocks him back towards Shun. Battle dance away, but there's a cease and desist follow-up. And with the the Asthma coming in from Knight. Lebrov has to try and dance his way away. Skumon trying to get the red buff slow. The knockup Shun will fall. Lebrov will survive. On court in the gravity well, and BLG overstep is a double for Hans. All out onto Knight. Take a knee, Knight. Broken Blade will take him out.
A big overstep from BLG as On just got a little bit too confident. He goes in very deep with Shun. They want to take away that red buff. They know that they have the level advantage. They have the gold advantage in mid, but it's just too deep.
Exactly. I mean, and Viper still doesn't even reset a single time this game. And in comes the Kaisa, in comes this bot lane. They could not finish off Lebrov quickly enough. Look where Bin is. He can't join. The Kaisa shows up. They realize that the fight is an absolute disaster. And BLG, this is sometimes how they are. They can outplay you. They can create these big advantages, and then they can get overconfident and give it right back. You know, it is the kind of give and take of this roster. They get a little bit wild sometimes, and now G2 going to be the receiving end of that. Hans gets 2 kills out of nowhere. The Kai'Sa's accelerated. Broken Blade picks up a kill. G2 are in the gold lead.
BLG still doing a lot of things right through this early game, though. On and Shun teaming up. Shun's going to be able to take the second neutral objective of the game in the form of the Grubs. And G2, although they have a 300 gold lead, Knight still massively ahead of Caps in that mid lane.
I mean, the wave of a wave of momentum has shifted towards G2, though, which they very much needed, because this early game felt like it was rapidly getting out of control. The Dragon has been secured, was secured earlier on by BLG, but now it's G2 that want to get a little bit more proactive on the map.
Yeah, this is the thing that having that momentum, having that impetus allows G2 to do. The whole game, it's been On and Shun going into Skumon's jungle saying, hey, you can have your Wolves, but we're taking your blue. You can have your red, but we're taking your Raptors. You can have this, but we're taking this. And now it's G2 who can actually be on that front foot, knowing they have enough tools, enough advantages to be able to take a fight if it materializes.
I think G2 clearly came into this game with that plan, right? You know, right from the word go, they're going on this invade. They're trying to put pressure onto Shun. They didn't want to be the ones always on the receiving end. You know, we had talked about it a lot, how much Skumon is being pressured. Of course, it's not just a 1v1. Jungle is about the lanes, is about the team. But Skumon being able to get off on the right foot a little bit more in this game.
It's important that they don't get overconfident, because here's the reality. Bin is playing like he has all series long. He's built himself an individual CS advantage. He's still in a good spot on this Camille, continuing to scale up as Broken Blade actually fancies himself a nice bit of a trade. Does have the ultimate back off cooldown, but getting that early armor obviously helping him in terms of this 1v1.
I mean, I think Bin is a fantastic laner, but to me, the thing that has always really been standout about Bin is actually his team fighting, right? Because a lot of times he plays these scaling picks, and he's just confident. As long as he is getting gold, he is going to find impact in the 5v5s, in the 3v3s. When it comes time to make that big play, this guy has done it time and time and time again, more so than in the lane. I really associate his success with just finding those big plays in the later stages.
I mean, there was that Camille play that he did back in MSI, I want to say 24.
One of the craziest combos.
Yeah, and there were so many breakdowns.
Over the
Baron Pit. So, like, I mean, he used to be, I want to say it was a Camille one-trick back in his solo queue days, back in the day. But, like, this is just one of the champions that he became so synonymous with, a champion that many have feared. And, I mean, it makes sense that he would pick it into Broken Blade, considering how he must feel he is just so much stronger in the lane. He is looking to proxy right now, but Skumon is in the area.
There's a Cyclone out. Bin hookshot wall dive. Doesn't get over the wall, though. Now flashes Broken Blade with the path. Mega Hexagon Ultimatum tries to be used. They'll pull him back with the all out. And G2 will find Bin. Cast a curse from Betty. Look, man, I know you want the LEC to win, but that was overkill.
Classic caster bias. Really disgusting when you think about it. Bin trying to go for a proxy angle there, and Skumon just has the right timing. Broken Blade already had his buy, so he had the Iceborne. He has the 1v1 advantage. Bin isn't even trying to kill that wave. He's just trying to pull the wave so it stacks and pushes towards him so he can get a free base. And unfortunately, Skumon shows up. He gets punished, loses his flash, loses the ult, does die.
Importantly for BLG, though, while that was happening, Shun was covering bot lane, and Hans Samuelabov had to walk away. So you can see now Hans about 300 gold behind, 20 CS down in that bot side.
Yeah, that is definitely a worthy trade, but this is now 2 kills that Broken Blade has been able to pick up. You know, on that earlier roam, he got the kill on Knight, now gets a second one here. And
that could be a solo kill.
Caps. Look at the damage.
Yeah,
Lands against it with the Arcane Storm. Caps brings the power of Hex Tech down on the head of Knight.
Yeah, I mean,
Shun going in with a flash cease and desist, and even with the death ray, I don't think Caps Glimpse walks out of this one. Skewmon trying to come in. Siphon power, the shield, the quickness. Perhaps he does! G2, where have these miracles been waiting for us?
I mean, that was a massive misplay from Knights. Like, if I could see it from the caster desk, I'm shocked that he didn't see it himself. The fact that he ended up losing in the 1v1, he loses his flash, and then Shun tries to get something back, but this time Lebrov and Skewmon are ready. G2 are bouncing back here in game 4 as they find themselves more kills.
Yeah, I mean, Knight needed to early flash because as soon as you get hit by the laser, you flash after. He's always going to flash follow with the ultimate there to knock you down. So Cap's able to get a solo kill. Knight had that early skirmish, put him ahead, but the invade was an overstep. And I talked about it. This is a pick that is more about the comp, not about the matchup. It is a very hard matchup to play out.
Yeah, right here, you know that Q, E, and R is a kill. And so Knight, like as you said, the only way that Caps doesn't flash for that is if he misses the E. But the fact that you would get hit by the E and then flash costs you so much. He gets the shield off of the Siphon power, and then Vi's just slightly out of range, allowing for Lebrov and Skewmon to come in and save the day.
That is so tilting as a Vi as well.
It absolutely is.
And I mean, Shun now is being put in a spot where he is pretty far behind on the Vi. And sometimes these games can become really rough for a Vi when you are getting put down like this.
The thing for me, though, is, like, these kills, they're promising, they're exciting, but in terms of the actual gold, it's not amounting into massive gold leads yet. G2 don't have a firm foot in this game, but maybe that'll change right now.
Caps and Skewmon on the flank, on with the knockback onto Lebrov, who does have the quickness. Caps trying to come in with that gravity. Well, heal out from On will get him out of it. There's the silence with the Arcane Storm. On knocked up and break for Will. Pretty well broken by G2. Viper now with the Feather Storm, with the flash. Are they going to go into his nest? Are they going to look for the dive with a TP out from Knight? Shun on his way across as well. G2 begin to call off the play. They get the TP out. Shun won't be in range to stop Skewmon with a Noxious Blast. Knight can still chase in. Cyclone Miasma. Lebrov dodges the Petrifying Gaze. The killer is coming out. Lebrov, that was beautiful! He dunks on him! LeBron James with the alley-oop, a double for Han Summer. Viper will be able to walk away, but that was gorgeous from G2.
LeBron with the outplay there. The backstep on the quickness was sick, and now Broken Blade wanted to get involved on the top side. It looks like they had such a good angle because the miasma felt like it was going to cut them off, and then right as they go forward, you're thinking, all right, straight into the Petrifying Gaze, but G2 knew it. This ult from On just came out way too late. He was already low. It's not going to protect you very much when you're down that much HP. Knight pushes out mid, TP's bot.
And now he's looking for a turnaround play because he knows that Shun is on the way as well. He thinks that, hey, maybe I can punish Skewmon, and the miasma placement was good, but Lebrov reads it, the step backwards, recognizing it was going to come through, sets up for Han Summer, ult into the backline. And before this replay, I said, G2 don't really have a sizable enough gold lead for me to have a huge amount of confidence that they really have a foothold in this game. But now, it is 3,000 gold to their name, 15 minutes in. Skewmon, 1.2k the gold lead. He is having way more impact than he's had in the last two.
Knight gonna get stunned up. Death Ray comes out from Caps. Knight is able to walk away from the Arcane Storm, but takes half his health for it.
And as much as Viper has done great in this lane phase, Hans has 4 random kills. He roamed top, picked up a couple there. They have this skirmish here. He picks up a couple there. And all of a sudden, despite being down 30 CS, it doesn't matter. He's up nearly 1,000 gold on the Kaisa. Really accelerated off of these plays. Right place, right time. His teammates set him up so well. And G2 out to nearly a 3,000 gold lead off of an early game that felt like it was BLG's.
All out onto Bin here. Hookshot wall dive will get him away. BB could have flashed forward, but Bin has to flash, respects the flash Q out of Broken Blade. Skewmon also coming in from the side. Like, BB just beat Bin in a 1v1 in the top lane.
I mean, he's been the beneficiary of all of these early kills, and they've done him a lot of favors. He's done a lot of work onto this top tower, and I feel like that when we think back to the last 2 games, BLG were the ones dictating the pace of the game. And it's crazy to think how that one deep invade on the top side jungle has completely swung that momentum G2's way. They are the drivers of this game. They are the initiators. They are the one making these plays. And now Dragon, 20 seconds away. We're 1-1 apiece, and you have to expect that G2 will set their sights on this next objective.
The game is far from over, but if you're BLG and you lose this game, that is what you were thinking about. You're thinking about that failed invade.
Oh, On with the knock-up here. Shun there for the follow-up. Miasma down, Blast Cone used. Beautiful stuff from BLG. A Trident collapsing onto Skewmon, and they skewer him on the end of it. Broken Blade now needs to get away. We'll be able to get Shun underneath the tower with the Pathmaker, Q3 for the knockback as well. BLG investing 4 to make sure that Bin can take this tower and open up the map.
And that's first tower, so there's a ton of gold given back to Bin. Broken Blade had been able to pick up a couple of these kills. You know, was kind of just in this position where you get ahead enough on a tank and you're kind of just outstatting them, right? It's hard to trade back. So this is really key for Bin, getting him into a good position once again in the 1v1.
And I think it was a big mistake from Skumon because BLG recognized, you know what, we're not strong enough to fight for the dragon. We'll give this dragon up and instead we'll look to cross map. But then Skumon, I think he just got a bit too greedy, trying to stop them from committing to that top tower, instead trying to fight them, and he ends up losing his life, giving over way more gold than he needed to. 1.5k the swing now, only a 1.5k gold lead for G2, and the dragon is still on the cards. With that extra gold injection, I wonder if BLG will look to try and contest it.
Yeah, BLG still have a ton of tools in a team fight. You've got the Feather Storm from Viper if he's ever jumped on, Hextech Ultimatum from Bin onto the backline with a cease and desist follow-up. Like, someone from G2 can immediately be popped in any of these fights.
And if they're the ones going for the engage, we know about the ability of the counter engage here, trying to dive through those feathers, through the miasma, through the petrifying gaze. Very, very difficult. But G2 still in the driver's seat here, are going to be the ones starting this up, and I think it's likely to be given, but we'll see if BLG want to try to get over there.
Well, looks like it is just going to be given over to G2. Their second of the game. Yeah, 28-minute soul if we get to that point.
And now this is where I will say it stops being fun for Cassante. Once Camille has lifesteal here, you have the Ravenous Hydra, you're healing up over and over off these waves. It becomes very difficult for Cassante to put them down. BLG overloading bot side.
Flashing in with the knock-up quickness coming out, but with the Hextech Ultimatum follow-up, there's no escape from Lebrov. A bird in a cage locked up as G2 lose another. BLG with a great pick.
I love the lane gank from Bin, simply because there's no cross-map option available for G2. The wave was pushed in mega deep up towards the top side. Broken Blade only just now getting that anywhere near that top tower, and maybe he will secure it, but BLG get a tower of their own with a kill as well.
They did commit a lot to it, but even having the TP from Knight, this is just great because Knight then goes up, defends the tower on the top side. You get the kill, you get the tower. The tower makes it more worthwhile to me if it's just a support kill for, you know, a flash from your support for multiple key ultimates. Feels less worthwhile, but defending the top side tower, taking one of their own, really clawing back this gold lead. BLG making a couple of very good plays.
Absolutely, and that just goes to show that G2, they can't afford to make any more mistakes because BLG is ready to pounce, and Bin is in prime position to do just that. Impressive lead that he's starting to build up for himself. The 2-item Camille that you've already highlighted as Ale really starting to look more threatening as Baron now makes its way onto the Rift.
14 kills in 20 minutes. One of the slower games that we've had today, which is not something that you always get to say, as G2 with only 1,000 gold lead now has been cut to own a third of what it once was. BLG's done a really good job over these last few moments, finding picks, catching G2 unawares, and they are on the precipice of coming back in this game.
I mean, Viper yet to find an assist or a kill, but he is a full level over Hunt Summer. He's done a really good job of continuing to farm. He does have that 35 CS lead above him, and while he is, of course, behind in gold because of that lack of participation, once he starts getting those kills, I mean, he's even in terms of itemization.
This is what they keep doing. They see Lebrov overstepping immediately. They jump onto him. It's not going to be enough as Broken Blade tries to get on towards the backline. Skumon going in. Lebrov is able to escape even through the poison ticking. Viper walking away as Broken Blade is headbutted back to the rest of his team. But meanwhile, Bin continues just to push in a side lane. BLG distracting G2 from Bin, who is trying to get these plates.
I mean, G2 tried to group, they tried to make plays happen, but it's Lebrov that keeps getting caught out, and BLG are leveraging this to find more advantages on the map.
And I think the really costly thing is Hans lost both summoners, right? So that is going to make it very difficult at this next dragon. G2 do have those 2 early dragons. Caps
just going to get forced away by Knight. This will get pulled back out of Vital, and the Herald will be killed before it can find its mark. 2 minutes on the next Drake, still a while before that next objective, but you can see what BLG are doing so well. Lebrov tries to step up immediately. Flash, Vault Breaker, let's go, let's get him down as low as possible, make him use the quickness defensively wherever we can.
Yeah, couldn't quite burst him down. But a big spike now for Knight as he gets that Archangel. So now you have that shield. You're about to tick over to 10 on that Roa. So it's a big part of the game here for Knight. Caps has gone in towards, you know, what could be a Zhonya's or just a pit stop for that Seekers. And then if he doesn't have to pop, you can obviously turn that into a Death Cap or a Shadow Flame or whatever else. But Cap's still looking for that second completed item.
That gold lead has disappeared. 3K was the advantage that G2 had amassed, but after that pick onto Skumon, the top tower plays, the gank in bot lane, BLG have closed that gap once again, and now we're in a very even game state where itemization is pretty dead set across the board. It all comes down to execution now as BLG is going to secure their third outer tower. That's 3 towers to 0 right now.
And that's one of the big reasons that the gold lead has shrunk. G2 have been unable to pick up any of those standing objectives on the map, any of that standing gold. Yes, they are 1 minute away from a possible sole point, but as soon as you start cracking through these towers, it really accelerates you towards those second and third items.
And that's the glass half empty. The glass half full is, if you win a fight, 1 plate remaining on bot tower, 1 plate remaining on top tower, 2 in mid lane. You could crack those outers pretty quickly and grab some of that standing gold, take some more space on the map, which can be quite nice. And the second item obviously has been done for Hans for a while. Looks like he's going to be going in towards Dusk and Dawn, which has become very, very popular on the Kai'Sa.
We can see throughout the trajectories that often when BLG got on lead in this series, it was very difficult for them to lose it. G2 getting that comeback victory in game 1. But now we're in a very even game state as we get closer to the dragon spawning.
It's going to be the Haunting guys, 4 caps, as you said, a little stopgap with the Seekers and the needlessly large rod. Drake up in 8 seconds time, not much vision down there for G2. Knight is hiding in the Baron pit right here. Caps is going to spot him out. Shun here for the chase as well. Knight able to put the miasma down and force Caps away. That does mean Knight has to take the long route back to join up with the rest of BLG.
Yeah, Knight took about 1,000 damage there from Caps. Will be able to grab some honey fruit, heal back up. So is going to be just fine, but level 15 for now. Just even on levels with Caps despite the Roa ticking over.
Broken Blade might get level 16 off this wave. Nope, never mind. He's going to start rotating across. The TP is actually going to be committed early. They want to contest for this wave. Getting Prior was much harder when that tower is still alive, but now they will gain access into the river, but Bin doing a good job of keeping that bot wave pushed.
Exactly, and they're actually pinging over on a Baron, because remember how fast Cassio can do this. They're trying to threaten a 2-man with Bin going down towards that bot side. They're trying to draw G2 in multiple directions, and G2 needs to commit to one side. You either start the dragon, you try to collapse on Bin, you got to do something here, because Bin is going to have that wave crashing in.
Also has the TP still, so if a BLG start up the Baron, which is what they're going to do, Bin can just teleport back. Shun and Knight able to do the Baron by themselves. Bin being collapsed on by Caps and Broken Blade. Meanwhile in the mid lane, Skumon and Hans Summer just trying to keep the wave around. Bin able to dodge towards the inhibitor tower and keep the rest of G2 distracted. Lebrov, Hans Summer and Skumon are into the Baron pit right now. Skew trying to get in there. Vision in the back of it for G2. Hans Summer opening up with the Acadian Raid. G2, Caps is going to TP in. Skumon on the Baron right now, and they can just finish it. Shun flashes in, gets the Smite Season assist as well. On's going to fall to the Arcane Storm. Shun in the middle of the pit is going to go down as well. Bin was able to escape. G2 will find 2, but BLG will get the Baron.
Shun comes up clutch for BLG once again. He needed to get that steal after BLG found themselves in a very awkward position. Once the TP from Caps came through, the poke was landing from G2. That could have been devastating for BLG, but Shun is able to save it.
That was crazy risky for BLG. I feel like if Skumon gets that smite,
it's a collapse.
It is such a disaster, but they are looking for a potential collapse here. Bin still has ult.
No, but Bin is just looking for the fight. Bin loves this position against G2. Knight trying to step forward, Skumon trying to get out. The hookshot wall dive in from Bin. Hexagol made him put onto Skumon, who's invisible for a second. Knight with a Noxious Blast. TP behind. Skumon flashes. Dies immediately afterwards. Lebrov having to dance his way away. But Bin's trying to get onto that backline. Petrifying Gaze going to land as well. There's a headbutt. Pulverize. And BLG punish G2's hubris. They take them down as they look for the dragon.
It's the Spellbook TP from On into the 3-man combo. They're going to look for more than that. They're just going for the base right here. Right now, it's 30 seconds on Hans. They might just end the game.
So many times BLG have come up just short. Second place, second place, second place. But here in first stand in São Paulo, they are looking for the ultimate prize. BB trying to be on that front line, but he is dead where he stands. Caps trying to defend. G2 unable to do anything. Second place no longer. Redemption for BLG. Resurrection for the LPL. BLG are your first stand champions.
And it can end that quick. BLG flip the game on a dime, find the angle, knowing they have that teleport that's going to be available from On, knowing Bin can play for the fight, knowing that G2 are focused on the dragon. BLG pile in and crush the dreams of G2, who made you believe in this tournament, who made you believe in this game. But BLG are the first stand champions, first international title for this organization, first international title for the LPL since 2023 MSI. The LPL fans have been hungry, and finally they can eat.
What a performance by BLG. Not just today, but across the tournament. They have been dominant, and today they show they are the very best in the world right now. For the LPL, as you say, 3 long years in the desert. Now again, international glory. We'll see if they can continue it across the rest of the year. But right now, one thing is for sure. It is BLG's world, and we're just living in it.
I mean, you called it, Medic. They have been sitting in that second place for so long. It feels like that this organization has come so close so many times, yet they've been unable to do it. And in this game, it was looking scary. It was looking close. Was it going to be another situation where they were at match point and they couldn't close things out? But then they took the initiative themselves. They drove home that final fight, and they just ended the game off the back of it. BLG's players are standout. And coming into this tournament, all eyes were on Knight. They were on Bin. But really, it was On and Shun that were the superstars of this roster that really brought everything together and were the massive playmakers for BLG, especially in today's final.
I mean, they played incredibly well. A slower start for their standards, 5 games against FearX. But after that, it was domination. They 3-0'd G2 last time. G2 able to get a game this time around, but BLG reigning supreme. And they got Viper with their eyes on international titles. This was one of these massive pickups where the entire offseason was stalled around this player in the LPL. Everyone hoping that they would be able to recruit him to their team. But he wanted to play with Knight, he wanted to play with Ben, he wanted to go to BLG. And in their first opportunity, they have claimed international glory.